Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, well, that's the biggest lie I've ever told, is my co host Tom, who is currently in a basement somewhere in the middle of the woods. He's deep underground.
I can think of other lies that are probably bigger.
Sure.
Hello, friends. And I'm actually in the middle of a woods in a garage.
Oh, there you go.
So that's happening. But maybe the internet's better than it has been previously when we would do Thank You or Janky or other Thanksgiving shows.
Absolutely.
Hello.
Good to have you. Joining us back again. He's back on the show after not too long, but I couldn't help myself because after our last show, he mentioned this project he was working on, and I was like, well, we're doing that show. Like, right away. I wanted to do it the next week. It was only my, really, I got to give Haywo some amount of time. He's a busy man, so I can't just bring him on as the new co-host basically constantly. But Haywo's back. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Yo.
We are going to be talking about Age of Sigmar and Magic the Gathering tonight. So basically every show. Same as always, nothing different. And but no, tonight we're going to take a little bit of an interesting deep dive into a project that Haywo's been working on making a custom commander for Magic, the commander format for each faction. So no matter what faction you're playing, don't worry, you've got a commander coming. And maybe, just maybe, since commander's a fun, casual format that you can just play with your friends and you can use whatever rules you want. Much like at my own table when we're like, hey, do you want to use battle tactics? And somebody's like, no, I really don't. And I'm like, okay, then we're not going to do that now. That's how that works. Or do you want to roll these extra stupid primal dice? And I'm like, not really. I hate these things and think it's terrible. And then we don't do that. And the game is fine. You can do that with these other games too, like Magic. It's great. Make games fun for you. The police do not come to your house. At any rate, of course, first, we will begin with the news before we get into all that. All right, so Tom, there's a 0% chance you read the news first.
Yeah, rumor engine. I'm looking at it right now, friend.
Sure.
Followed by I can read a list.
You can read a list. That's right. Okay. Is this a new Rat Ogre Claw? Yes. Moving on. That's it.
Yeah, rat ogres. Like, yes. Like, clearly it's not storm fiends because they don't have hands, but rat ogre maybe.
Yeah. Yep.
They arguably have hands.
Hey, well, thoughts?
I would listen to an argument that said that they do have hands. They're just inside the guns.
Sure.
Although I would suspect not. I think it's like Doom, where it's just kind of connected to it, and they can't eat cereal in the morning, but their arms are chain guns, and that has its own positives too.
Yeah, I feel like inside, I think it depends. I think on some of their hands, the presence or absence of hands within that, I think it could vary by Storm Fiend. But yeah. You're right, it would pose a significant problem having a giant brute who's just like got two Gatling guns as hands. It's like, hey, can you move that rock? No.
I could shoot it. I could shoot the rock. That's what you're looking for. Yeah, this is probably that. I think I agree. Context clues, hey, Skaven's probably on the horizon, as many have predicted. And, oh, hey, here we go. I once did a tier list of the ugliest models still for sale for Age of Sigmar, and all the community got involved and submitted all of them. And the winner was the Rat Ogre.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the one that's still for sale on the website. There is a slightly newer, actually slightly better, but monopose version that was from, what is it, Isle of Blood, that they don't sell anymore. Yeah. So it's got a tragic history to it. But yeah, those gaps, man, those lines. It looks like a posable action figure from the dollar store, and looking forward to it getting replaced.
The current model that they sell, that they charge actual currency,
it's like $35 or something. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's not. Go check my true facts there. But
if it's more than $0, it is too much money. There is no amount of money that is the correct amount of money for that thing. Okay.
If they were
because-
just offering you those models, Vince, would you accept them?
No. I would not take them for free. I would not take them if you paid me. For negative money. That's how stupid they are.
Yeah, storage costs money, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that's more than zero.
I would rather have the empty space.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just
The
less
void
stuff in my house.
of nothingness is worth more than those abominations, those war crimes given physical form. They are awful. And anyway, so this is a Rat Ogre, and I'll be happy to get new ones. Look forward to it. What's next?
Yeah, so we had obviously there was a bunch of interesting things that dropped this week. But the one that let's talk about the old world combat stuff.
Sure, I want to get that out of the way, then we'll talk about
we had the
all
announcement
cool
show that dropped as well.
Yes, we'll get there.
Yep.
We'll get there.
Yep.
But I want to do the old world thing first. They talked about the combat phase, and hey, well, I want to get your take on this. Is it just me, or are they leaning into, like, they're not afraid of complexity with this? They're like, no. We're going to make a niche game for the people who want high complexity. This is what they're doing, right? Yeah, sure.
As they should. That's the target. To me, the target audience is twofold. And the second one is ironically much more important. And the first is old people who actually played Warhammer Fantasy Battles and would like to nostalgically play it again. Perfectly fine. Nostalgia's big this time of year and decade and century. And then the second are an entire wave of people who were introduced to the concept of Warhammer from Total War Warhammer on Steam 1 and 2, to a much lesser degree 3. But you know,
Sure.
And that's huge and a surprise, probably to them too. And tragically, it came far too late. Like, miraculously, this game built on their old system becomes really popular after it dies, and then also after they killed it. And so they're like, well, damn, we got a whole bunch of people interested in this old IP we have, and we got old people kind of nostalgic. 2 birds, 1 stone, maybe. And the game's pretty complex. I mean, the video game. Warhammer Fantasy Battles is pretty crunchy, you know. Everybody's obsessed with streamlining stuff for the wider and wider audience nowadays. So let's look at our target audience and make something for them. And I think that's crunchy. That's fine.
Yeah. I just hope that internally.
Yeah, I think the
bosses who are, I know Tom's delayed, so I'll have to give him a moment sometimes.
He's not being rude, folks. He's on a delay.
He's just on a delay because his internet
He's on satellite from
from the woods, from his bunker.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my thing. I think that's actually quite a smart business strategy to, like, appeal to the niche, and it's very different than AoS, different user persona, so on and so forth. So, like, as a sort of product manager, I'm like, yes, they've made the correct choice here to try to single out a new audience and blah, blah, blah. But the question is, do their bosses have that expectation, right? Like, no, this is going to be a relatively small game, okay? Like, we're not selling to the 80-90% of the market. We're selling to the 10-20% of the market, right? Because that's what this is selling to. Like, if I was going to do my sort of, you know, market sizing on this, it would be like the way other end, like, this is the main market, this is the niche market.
Yeah.
Right?
But we're going after, like, you know, the purpose of going after the small market is that they're extremely loyal. And they'll buy anything as long as they're happy forever. And so that's like the, you know, it's the
it
good part
seems
about
like
it.
the target.
If I was like a big
Let's
boss,
say that it seems like the target here is actually
just
hold on. No, go on.
Yes, Tom, go.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
No, I would say it seems like the target here is, it is indeed, it's parallel to the Horus Heresy market, in that they're trying to hit this niche market with this, like, in parallel their success with Horus Heresy. I think the big unknown here is ultimately going to be what we're seeing in the Total War audience, which, as you Haywo certainly identified, it itself is complex, and so clearly those that are engaging in that game are not afraid of complexity in any way, shape, or form. And so I think that that's going to be the big question mark for them. I would suspect that they view this as hopefully they're like I would expect that they're setting their sights as likely it will be successful as a niche game like Horus Heresy, and I think they're maybe hoping that it would rival Age of Sigmar. I think that that is probably misplaced, but that's probably where their sights are.
That's my point. There's no way.
I think the Total War audience probably leans younger, especially when compared to the actual Warhammer Fantasy Battle audience. And as such, I think maybe this is like I'm not a businessman. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, all right. But as I see it, a big strategy for Games Workshop is expose your IPs to young people that are all expensive and take a lot of time. And those people grow up and go to college, and then they become financially stable, and then they got that prick of the thing they saw when they were a kid, and now they really get into it.
Sure.
10 years later, 5 years later, whatever. And so that's, I imagine, maybe a percentage of what they're trying to do with it. It is a big unknown, though, because one of the things I think that people fell in love with when they played Total War 1 and 2, and I'm not necessarily a fan, I don't really like RTS games that much, but it's just like a genre thing. It's not really besmirching the game at all, is that they fell in love with the world and the characters. And
Sure.
necessarily with Old World, it's not like they're bringing back all your favorite characters. It's like a time skip. And so that's a
Yep.
question mark to me. But to get back to what I was going to say before about the CEO, the bosses, okay, what are they thinking? I think they're like, well, we did it with Horus Heresy and it seems to be profitable, so let's do it with Age of Sigmar.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, the rules wise, which we haven't discussed at all, it was fine. It's what I expected. This is like a basically version of what you would imagine from most Warhammer Fantasy. The difference is in what this then calculates to, because you then roll the dice and you have to pay attention to both the unmodified roll and the modified roll, and you compare both to your bravery, and then like you end up in like different situations.
Yeah, they brought back THAC0.
Oh, it's all THAC0 charts, baby.
Yeah.
The hit chart was in here too, and it was interesting because it runs 2 through 5, and it never goes to 6.
No guarantees.
Never goes to 1, and it's double. For a long time, it was often 1 higher jumps you to 5s and 1 lower jumps you to 3s. That was kind of the classic breakdown of the thing, right?
Okay.
And now you stay on 4s for basically weapon skill. The weapon skill comparison moved to the old strength toughness comparison, where double weapon skill plus 1 is where it ticks up to 5, if that makes sense. So like if you're weapon skill 3, fighting weapon skill 6, it's still 4s to hit. Okay. So, anyways, the whole thing was interesting enough. And, they talked about how this little like swinging modifier of do you fall back in an organized fashion? Do you break and run? Do you stand? And all this, they even, what tells me they know it's complicated. Okay. They know what they're doing here. Like they're making a
they have their
complicated
graphic
game.
designer make a chart, first of all.
Yes.
which
One, they made a
resisted
chart
for a
for
long
it.
time in AOS.
Yep. 2, in the article, they were like, okay, we know this seems complicated, but whoa, don't leave yet. Trust us. You'll
They
do this
actually
a few
said the
times.
line.
Yeah. And it'll become really easy. And I was like, okay, you know what you wrote here, And, we've all been there. So there you
Still,
go.
it's refreshing for a little bit of honesty when it comes to copy,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll talk about that more when I get to a pick of the week in a little while. Okay. So, what's next? The preview show, Tom, right? That's what's next?
Yeah, absolutely. The preview show. So we had a bunch of previews. Obviously, FEC was front and center in that. But I don't want to miss, like, before we jump into FEC, I don't want to miss the Tomb Kings preview, the dragon thing. Like,
It's ugly. I hate it.
I saw that and I was immediately like, that's fine. And you're allowed to have that opinion.
Mhm.
But I looked at that and I was like, I don't know. I could do a new Lomnia, army with a zombie dragon. That thing converted as zombie dragon. I was like, right, I can do that.
I
Average
saw that
Joe, the
thing
answer
on
is yes.
the. Hmm?
I'm just answering your comment. Average Joe, the answer is yes. Very much yes. Very, very much yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Hey, whoa.
Oh yeah. I did I always do a little live watch party for these reveal things, and sometimes we have bingo cards when everyone doesn't know that it's going to be flesh eater cards. And the Tomb King crocodilian skeletal dragon thing came on the screen, and I believe it was like 1 second it took me to be like, damn, I am transported back to the plane of fear. And there's Bertox Tulis up there with Draco Lich in EverQuest. And this guy is the spitting image, except he has a dude on the back of him. And so if they're going for old guy nostalgia, I mean, Variant Interactive 3D MMOs from the year of our Lord 1999, they did it, and he's on a big old square base. We were all kind of waiting for them to say plastic. Please say plastic. Please don't say resin. That thing doesn't look like a load-bearing model, and
Yeah.
it's plastic, to the rejoice of the peasants, and it looks cool while still maintaining a very old feel and theme and style to it. Tomb King Tristan, we had to
And
give him a
new
wellness
Tomb
call.
King bits. New Tomb King bits. To me, what the best part about this is actually the bits for those that want to do AoS conversion armies. Because now we have an entire host of new bits that are going to be more readily available.
I mean, you might as well give all your customers an excuse to buy the stuff that even they might not be interested in the game for, right? Which is me. That's me. I'm not really interested in Old World whatsoever. I don't have the nostalgia. I never played Fantasy. I was playing Magic in card stores for 20 years and looking at empty fantasy tables and Warhammer tables and 40K tables and stuff like that. So I don't know. Rank and flank, just not me. It's just, my opinion, man.
Yep.
I'm not the target audience. So kind of, as the not target audience, sort of doesn't matter what I think about it, but I think it's cool anyway.
Yeah, what I'll say about the Tomb Kings is I really hated that crocodile monster. I just think his big, flat, stupid head looks stupid.
It's a lot of empty space and a lot of just bones on there.
Yeah, I just think it's ugly as sin. Compared to the unbelievable raw elegance that was the Sphinx and the various versions of the Sphinx when it was that monster, it is such a dramatic step backwards. I can't even understand how we got to there. Sorry, whoever sculpted that. I apologize, but nope, that one's a pass for me. I really think it's aesthetically awful in so many different ways. So.
Well, EverQuest models didn't have a lot of polygons to work with, so
sure. Sporadicus said the sculptor went on Instagram and said he didn't like the final result. Okay. Is that for the Sporadicus? Is that for the Tomb Kings guy? Because boy, oh boy, does that say everything.
Perhaps it was part of the design doc, a lot of the decisions they had to make.
Sure. All right. So yeah, there was a Tomb Kings thing. It was fine. I don't have any pictures for that. What I did bring up here, and is on screen right now, is Usharan, the Summer King. And I'm gonna let you in on a secret. I don't like this guy very much either. How about that? How about that? A hot take. You ready? I'm dropping Scorchers tonight.
Are you a silhouette man, Vince? Is that the? Are you a movement and silhouette kind of man? And that's because I'll take that criticism.
That's exactly it.
It's a bulb, right?
It's a bulb. That's right.
It's a bulb. Nothing's happening. He's not doing anything.
Yep.
There's no movement. He's not exactly two meatballs with the illusion of chains swirling and rotating and all this other stuff, right? I'll take the criticism. It's not.
I mean, he's fine.
Exciting in that way. To me, I'm overwhelmed by the style and look and all this other. I like all that stuff.
Sure.
In fact, I like that quite a bit more than I was prepared to after having seen some of the Flesh Eater Courts stuff that had been trickled out. And then we get Godric the Giga Ghoul from Elden Ring, and I'm like, I didn't think they were going to go into a Dark Soulsian kind of Bloodborne Elden Ring way with this. I kept saying every time a Flesh Eater Court release came out, I'm like, it looks like a little squiggly guy from Bone Tomahawk, Resident Sleeper. I want to see show me the delusion on the model. Show me what they see. It can be a mixture, but give me a little bit of that instead of just wiggly guys.
Yep.
And then they're like, well, what about Elden Ring? I'm like, oh, actually, that's pretty tight too.
Yeah.
That's super sick.
Now,
so
to be clear, the actual sculpting on this one of the components is all exemplary. Like,
that cape game dripping down the stairs.
Exactly. The flowing cape, the musculature, the way the skin gathers at certain points, where it's loose at certain points, but taut at certain points, the way the bones, his bone crown, the scepter, his like scepter of rulership there is amazing. His face is so detailed and like really full of expression in like a really detailed way. His bands, the like bracers around his arm, look how heavy those look. Like they're hanging loose, but they still seem like heavy on his wrists. All of that is exemplary. Okay? So I don't want to, like, the problem with him is it's exactly what you said. Hey, whoa. And I love that you caught it and you knew exactly where my head was at. The problem is he's a hunched over little meatball. Okay? And like the picture of Usharan that we previously had in the book was like him up like this, like ripping someone in half with like blood streaming from them to his mouth as he just like clearly bit them in two, right? And like he's just this massive open posed fig doing, in big action, doing something. And then here we've got instead him just going like an angry silverback gorilla kind of pacing around, just like stalking its territory. That's his pose.
Maybe
I want to push back on this
if we're talking.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all. I don't disagree with that at all. But I want to push back on this because there is something that in the narrative, this is Usharan chained. Right? Like what you're describing
version of him
is Usharan like, no, I'm not. But if you read the lore, like if you read what they talked about, like Nagash has actually like chained him and broken him. Right?
Well,
so there is a sense in which like he like, well, yeah, but he's doing like he's on Nagash's side. Like he's not leading a revolt against Nagash anymore in the lore. Like in the article, if you read, like in some way he's been deceived and basically brought back through his own delusion or whatever into the service of Nagash. Sure. And to me, that speaks of an individual who's been broken. And like I read that in the posture. Right? Like yes, the manacles and yes, the cloak, it all feels heavy. And and I fully agree that the silhouette is just terrible, right?
Yeah.
But I also read the narrative of where they're going with that.
80% of the upward facing surface on this guy is just the same fur cloak. From above, sure. Like picture you looking at your model as it exists on the table. You will be staring at a ball of fur. It'll look like you have a critter.
It'll look like a tumbleweed. Oh, a critter. Hey, yeah. Don't feed him after
because
midnight.
All of that fur is going to be what you see. That's it. Because when you look at him from above, he's just fur.
Sure.
When you get down on this level and you can like look him in the face, sure. He looks okay. Like, again, all of the sculpting is masterclass stuff on expression, on musculature, on skin, on everything. It's exemplary work. It's just the pose. If he was open, if he was standing, if he was moving, if he was ripping somebody in half, if he was doing anything, man, I'd be about this guy. It's just, we just, like, this pose is just terrible. I don't like it. I think it will look bad on the table. That's it. I think he will not be fun to paint because his entire front is in shadow. Just spray black under there. It's close enough. Like, he's so hunched. This is my issue with him.
Yeah, I see that.
Again.
Well, I'm looking forward to painting him, so you can just go
that's fine.
Paint something else.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. At any rate, there's other
It's going to be
stuff though.
great. It'll be great for dry brushing.
Sure. Yeah. If you want to make fur look bad, yeah. So like he's going to be book 4, the Mad King Rises, which I am very excited for this. Like we've been leading up to this for like 2 books now in the story. I am very excited to see what we get in the Mad King Rises, to see how Usharan comes on the scene, what he's doing, and stuff like that. By the way, I just want to be clear. My aesthetic opinions are my own. Like if you love that model, love it and go nuts. I'm not trying to yuck your yum. I'm just telling you why I don't like it personally and why I'm not excited for it. If you love it and it's the coolest thing since sliced bread for you, then I'm in, and I'm super glad you have something you love. Period. End of story. Okay. Yeah, but I'm excited for this. I want to know what else we're gonna get in the book. Is it like all FEC, or are we gonna get some other forces in there too? Time will tell. Yeah, exactly. Inquisitor has said compare him to Radikar. Like, exactly, dude. Come on now. Radikar. Shadikar knows how to strike a pose, right? That dude's doing something. Okay. At any rate, we've also got a Flesh Eater Courts army set box coming. And it's got, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. It's got a new Vargulf. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We could put him to rest. You fought long and hard.
I mean, he's fine. He's fine. Like, I get it, right? Like when I see the Vargulf, and like I just see basically a resculpted Vargasgear or whatever from the Cursed City box set.
Yeah, I think the Vargasgear looks better than him.
I think they could. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Like, I don't know. It's fine. He's fine. He's fine. He's like the one I'm least interested to paint out of all of them.
He's a long rat.
Yeah, the new Crypt Guard boys looking good. That Gore Warden dude who we already saw, the guy on the cover with his little like bone necklace thing. Again, it's exactly what you said, right? They gave all these guys like stuff. They've got something to attach their delusion to. They're not just naked people running around imagining they're in finery or whatever, right? Or riding a horse. Like, there's stuff. Speaking of stuff to attach to, boom! Knights! Real knights! These guys I'm all about. The, like, Bat Dog, FEC Ghoul, Pegasus Knights. I love these guys. These guys, I am here for.
Some sort of mount, right?
Yeah.
I believe it was supposed to be that the Flayers and the Crypt Honkers were supposed to be like cavalry of some sort, but I can't buy it with one guy. Mm-hmm. They actually have to be on something, and here we go. Looking fun.
I think it would have looked nice if on the Crypt Horrors, which are supposed to be the knights, if like on the leaders they have in their like mane on the back, they have like a skeleton, like the remnants of a skeleton. I think they could have sold it better on both the Crypt Horrors and Crypt Flayers if they would have had like mounted dead guys on the back. And so like they are the mounts, even though they think that would have sold it from a modeling standpoint. Like that would have sold it for me better than what we got.
Yeah, it was just an old model from the old game, so I kind of had to.
That's exactly right. Bit.
And now we're getting this beautiful new range. So we got a bunch of stuff. I'm really excited for all this new stuff here. There was other models I didn't have pictures of. They had like the Executioner guy, who simple but effective, beautiful model. They had the Pope. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah. So now we have Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Finally, we got the Triumvirate.
Exactly.
And we got the Cardinal. And they're making a little society here. It's like a horrific inversion of Cities of Sigmar, which is, I think, probably a little bit what they're going for moving forward.
But I was stoked for all this stuff. Yeah, totally. Yes, 100%. Like a dark mockery.
Am I a Flesh Eater Court player now? No. Is this all great? Yes. It's great. You'll love to see it. So many people were excited about Flesh Eater Court stuff. After every reveal show, I always tweet something about it. And this is like my most liked tweet ever. Just showing like the Flesh Eater Court stuff. People are excited about this. They're hyped up.
Yep.
Good to see.
Well, and it really shows you what they can do with a renewed range, right? With just a handful of kits, taking an old range and breathing new life into it. right? Like before, they always felt like a dangler faction with like what 4 kits, 5 kits.
Everything in a start
But
collecting
now,
box.
they double the everything. Yeah, exactly. The entire army previously was in a start collecting box. Like my old advice was buy 4 start collectings, and you'll basically have everything you need for this army.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
nice. You get a
this
you
is
get a
just an
second half
amazing
of the army.
example.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's just amazing what they can do with just a little bit, a handful of kits.
Yeah. Yeah, you get a second half of the army released for AoS, and it's kind of like pulling it into Age of Sigmar from being one of the clearly sort of hangers-on left over from the other stuff. It's always nice to see them bloom into, okay, now we're AOSified, we fit the game. Look at how interesting all this stuff is. Can't wait for the next one. I wonder who it'll be.
Yeah.
Cool. Now do Fire Slayers. Technically, I think they were right on the hump, right? Is Fire Slayers the first AOS themed faction, or was that
They were
like
the second. The first AOS, the first full AOS was Iron Jaws, and
IJ?
then Fire Slayers were second.
Okay.
Yep.
Both of which were taking a single model in the old range and expanding them out into a whole army concept.
Which is a terrible idea.
Right.
I mean, sorry, Fire Slayer players, I guess.
Yeah.
Opinion's mine, but
yeah, I mean, Fire Slayer's got that new awesome Flamekin unit. I mean, like, they're rules wise.
Yeah, there's
whatever,
rules.
Whatever.
There's room to expand.
They're amazing.
Yeah, there's room to expand for sure.
Yeah. I'll tell you what this gets me mega hyped for. I'll just say this very quickly, and then Tom, go ahead. This gets me mega hyped for what does a mass scale Skaven refresh look like? Like, if this is what we're batting at right now, and we get that Skaven refresh for the 4th edition launch, as I have foretold, I have tapped 2 colors and placed a face down card on the table. It is foretold. Okay, we're just gonna start making the references now. Then like, I cannot wait to see what that is. Tom, go ahead.
I just want to see what the scale is going to be, because Flesh Eater Courts didn't have a lot of kits. Skaven's got a lot of kits.
Yeah, I can't imagine that they'll do more than 10 kits for Skaven. But I mean, it is a huge range, so who knows? No, all I was going to simply say though was that of those that Kuhal mentioned, the ones that strike me that really do need the overhaul is the Fire Slayers. Because ogres do have kind of the distinct factions. But Fire Slayers are the one where there really are like, if you've played that army, there really are gaps in that army, and you feel it when you play it.
Yeah, I think one's a gameplay mechanical and the other is an aesthetic, I suppose, right? Ogres got a lot of fine cast in their model range, but they got mostly all the units they would want. And Fire Slayers are just kind of running on half empty, and they need a refill. All right.
Warpstone Enjoyer said, "Is there more to the Skaven rumors? Or still just Whitefang?" Homie, this is the secret. I'm gonna will this into being. Okay, let me tell you what this is. All right, like, if you will hard enough, you can just change reality. That's what I'm banking on here. So it doesn't matter. I don't care what it is. I don't need a rumor. I believe. Did you ever watch The Never Ending Story? All right, Bastion just got to start wishing for something. Okay. He's got to give her a name, like whatever. Just start saying stuff. Dream everything back into existence. Let's go. All right. At any rate, yeah, I think that's. Oh, sorry. We had one more thing. The only other thing from the reveal show. We'll mention it quickly and then move on. Cruel Boy's got a Underworlds unit.
Yeah, there was 5 normal men.
Yeah.
Immediately after Usharan and all the Flesh Eater Courts, it was like, and here's 5 Cruel Boys that look pretty much like the other Cruel Boys. All right. I mean, it's a tough act to follow. I probably would have put it, if I was organizing a reveal show, I probably would have put it before the most exciting thing to kind of ramp up. But, what's done is done.
What's done is done. Yeah. Last thing I'll say on this reveal show. They suck at reveal shows now. What happened, guys? What happened? Like, the two hosts were fine. They're both great. They're both very charismatic, both very nice guys. They did a wonderful job. I loved how they talked about FEC and like as you mentioned, hey, well, you and I were talking before, and they like leaned into the delusion. They were like, and here's these noble knights on their glorious deeds and like all that. That was all great. Like those guys, fantastic, no problem, A+, great work as always, team. Like they great presentation team. It's what's surrounding them. So I was watching it. Actually, Halo, I was watching you watch it. That's what happened. Like, I didn't end up doing a reveal show because I was like, Halo's got all my opinions on lock. It's all good. I'm just going to load up and say the same things.
A based Halo Twitch lurker enjoyer. All right.
I was just lurking. I'm always lurking. So, at any rate, as I watched it, I was like, what's going on here? When did we forget how to do a real trailer? They just flipped over and they were like, okay, and next up, here's Age of Sigmar, and here's the Summer King, and cool. And it was just like, bup. Here he is on screen, just like, boop. Here's this most important figure that we've built up to for years and in the story for months in a very detailed way, and now he's just on screen.
He's getting a whole narrative book.
Yeah.
You know, it's from multiple pathways they're building up to this.
Exactly. So I had to go back, and once again, and I'm sorry to keep bringing this up, but it's really important. I had to go back and watch the Daughters of Cain reveal trailer again. That is how you do a reveal. For like, I'll link it in the chat down below. Okay, you wanted elves, you got them, and then rock music starts, and we get the Canary, and it's just like, and every image, every scene is cut to the beat of the trailer, like they're cutting on the beat, right, and switching the images, and it's just throwing up like blood, glory, slaughter, murder, and I'm like, this is a vengeance, right? And then they cut at the end, and you just, and it's like, and the beat like really hits. It's like, and as it's hitting, you're like getting these short cuts of like a big tail wrapping around a rock and a wing, and then Marathi talks, and then the trailer hard cuts. And they don't even show you Marathi. They give you the idea you're looking at Marathi, but they don't even show it. We had to wait like a month to get the follow-up trailer to see full Marathi. And I'm just like, that trailer was hype. I've watched that thing, I don't know, I'll be conservative and realistic. I've watched it 500 times. That's real. Okay? And I watched it about 30 times that night. Okay? And there's just like such a missed opportunity. They could have done something so similar for all these new amazing models. Like everything here in this range could have done the same thing, right? They could have had an awesome reveal trailer. And yet we didn't.
Imagine if the voiceover had been Usharon, and he was like, "Come forth, my servants."
Right.
Knights. Like as he's like narrating, you know, like the marching forward of his various, you know, and my entourage. Like, imagine if he would have like, if he would have marched that out, and then, I mean, a silhouette would not have worked for him. But like even if you had done like a close up of his like of his face or something, right? Or I don't know, just anything than what we got.
Anything.
Like
just do
agree.
anything.
Like I love the fanfare. Yeah, just do anything and create rather than like like a power. Again, I don't want to bang on this too hard for, you know, the videographers and creatives in the house.
My guess is they're just not giving the time and budget.
It would have been wonderful.
Yeah,
that's true. That's fair.
I don't think it's their fault. I think they want to be doing creative things. I'm just guessing they're not given the time and budget, and that's a real shame because they should be making bangers like that Daughters of Cain trailer again.
Yeah, as a person who literally does that, the Daughters of Cain trailer is like a 4-hour job. If they supply the footage, which they would, and
True.
if they give you the music or at least the rights to it, yeah, you do that in like 4 hours, one person.
Right. All right.
So
well,
probably stretched thin, I would say.
I assume so. All right, let's move on, people. Let's get on to some pick of the week. We've spent a long time in news, but it was lots of stuff to discuss. So, pick of the week. Hey, well, we'll start out with.
But I will bill you for a day. Just saying.
Of course, as would be completely fair.
Like a
what
lawyer.
would you like to share with everybody, Hey, Will?
I arrived unprepared actually, as usual, when it comes to pick of the week, because I'm always watching stuff when I'm editing, and it's rarely AOS.
I have
But
another one for you if you'd like. By the way, would you
well,
like me
I
to
was
supply
I was
you?
I was bullied into this. I was pressured into it. But
That's fine.
my pick of the week is my own show
I
on
support this.
Twitch, twitch.tv/Heywo, which is where I'm always making content every week, a few times a week. Um, I have a second YouTube channel, Heywo Plus. Just search for that. It's the VODs from the Twitch show, and I'd like to think it's pretty comfy. And I got a guy who does that, SJ Arcade, one of my mods, who likes to make thumbnails with bunny girls' feet all over it to try to capture a certain audience. I'm not judging you, any Slanesh worshippers in the chat. But then it like gets to the video and it's just me like playing EverQuest and talking about video games and Age of Sigmar and stuff. Very busy professionally right now, so I haven't been uploading to the main channel, as you may have noticed, but I don't know. Post holiday season, we'll see how that one goes.
Excellent pick. I full and wholeheartedly support both of these. Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you here. What's your do you have a pick you'd like to share?
Yeah, of course. I do, because I wanted to be on theme for the show. I've picked this one before, but I'm going to drop it again. If we're talking Warhammer and Magic in the same show, I like to I want to bring before our audience Pleasant Kenobi's channel. Pleasant Kenobi is a big he's a wonderful voice that's much after my own heart of appropriately critical when it's warranted, but just a generous, good spirit for the most part in the Magic world. And so it is. He has gotten into Warhammer in the last, I think, 2 years or so. And I know that he was in 4K. He considered dipping his toe in AOS. So I think he did, maybe, I don't know. But anyways, he has a bunch of wonderful most of his videos are generally shorter. They're more at the 10 to 15 minute mark. And they are delightful. And so some are think pieces, some are reflections on the competitive nature of things and the like. It's not as much Commander focused, but it's still great content.
Yeah,
Did you say
great.
Pleasant Kenobi?
Yes.
For once, I think I recognize this person. They like replied to me on Twitter when I posted that I was doing this, and they're like, "Hey, let's talk about Magic." I'm like, "All right." And then I clicked on their name, and they had like 40,000 followers or something. I'm like, "Oh, big. All right."
Yeah.
I haven't seen their stuff. I'm sure it's good. They want to talk to me, so obviously their content is the highest quality, and they have great, opinions about everything.
Yes, Pleasant Kenobi's awesome. Would second that recommendation. Watch very regularly, and we're gonna try to have him on the show actually at some point in the future. We'll do some more Magic content, so we'll see how that works out. And if you're watching this, hey, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Hopefully he catches up on this episode. I'm sure it's very late. We're being in the UK right now. At any rate,
I didn't mean the posturing if we're on the VOD crew.
We're
trying to be funny here.
All good. I got 2 picks just in case. I came with 2 picks. I was ready. So pick number 1 is for Roman Lapat in his most recent video, where he talks about sort of the highs and lows and the emotional journey of going to a miniature painting competition. It's a really nice, very comforting video. He talks about like sort of the struggle of the thing, the anticipation, the anxiety, the build-up, the presence, and it all read very true to me and what I had experienced. He talks about the different kinds of expectations and all of this, and this is all framed around his recent journey to Monte San Savino, which happened like 2 weekends ago. That's right. And I just loved it. I thought it was a really, really, really great video. So that will be linked down below. And the second one is Peachy is back with another episode of the painting phase, where he's got some of the old school tool producer. I'm sorry, I don't remember the gentleman's name because I'm bad at names. But the guy who like told the story of how they came about to GW Clippers And Sprue's like, this is the guy who created like all the hobby products. And he gives like all the background and skinny on the story of all this because he was there for forever, just like PG. Okay. And in this episode, hey, whoa, are you ready for this? They are talking about why Finecast. Why did Finecast happen? What happened here? Okay. And so that is, I was like, I watched that episode immediately. I was like, I gotta know the story behind this. And it's more complicated than you think is really the answer.
That's how the older I get, the more I realize how true that is about everything.
Yeah.
More complicated than you might think.
Right. It's so very rare that anything has a simple explanation. But it was an amazing story. There you go. Thank you, Chris H. Tom Hibbard is his name. Thank you, Chris. Much appreciated. I don't want to insult. Like, the dude's awesome. Me not remembering his name was not a judgment of this gentleman who was absolutely fantastic and funny and has like amazing, great stories, and they're all great together. It was a truly, truly wonderful episode. So would recommend 10 out of 10 for the painting phase, that one. Yeah, he talked about Finecast and kind of that whole journey, as well as the journey with blister packs, with clan packs. Okay. And like, you should go watch the episode, but I will relate one funny story from it that will inspire you to go watch it. You ready? If you ever bought a Citadel paint thing, like a paint set thing, and you open it up and the plastic container the paint comes in has like little recesses, like a well palette and paint brushes and stuff like that in it. Okay. You know, that's the like plastic container the paint comes in is also like a little well palette. Yeah. Okay. I'll just assume you both know what I'm saying. It's fine. It's like that.
Okay.
The reason it's like that is because in the UK, you have to pay you have to pay a tax on all non-recyclable components that are just components, like shipping components of your package. But if they turn it into a product, if it's part of it, right? No, this is a plastic pallet that it comes with. Okay. Then it's no longer like a packaging component and doesn't have to pay the tax. Right?
Oh.
So hence
I love that. I love stories like that.
Yes. That kind of a little thing. I was like, holy crap. That is amazing. Right? Like, and so he's like, and look, honestly, it's not that bad. It's like, who cares? If you just throw it away, you throw it away. But if you really don't have a pallet, it is a pallet. Like, it is legitimately that thing. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you're getting ripped off. You're just getting an extra thing, but GW's dodging attacks. That's why it's like that.
Yeah, and they really did
amazing.
Do you have a license for that? They really did it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty great. Yes. Yeah. Tax on packaging, but yeah, if it's a tool, it's part of the product. There you go. So, cool. Very cool episode, full of stuff like that. At any rate, all right, let's make our way over here to some hobby time. Hey, whoa. You said you've been busy with work. You've been able to paint anything or do any hobby?
Not really, no.
Have you got any games in recently?
Yeah, I haven't even gotten any games in recently. Even on Twitch and stuff. Once again, after the holiday season, we'll see if we can go over it. I'm still probably going to get the Sarlacc pit. Even though it's explicitly not made for my faction, really.
Yes.
In the rules text, it literally kills me.
Yes.
But Gutbusters are immune. And then our other terrain feature helps wizards, which we don't have in our half of the army. We're the priests. And so, interesting that Gutbusters have 2 terrain features made for them, and we have none. But it looks cool. Maybe I'll use it for a diorama or a board or something. It's an ogre thing. I'll probably end up getting it and do something with it anyway.
I love that your army
change,
sure, is the first army to get a second piece of terrain. And it's a well-known problem that half of the army the terrain piece does not work at all for half the army. And so you would think logically, like when they revealed it, I was like, oh, cool. BCR is going to get their terrain piece. It'll be
I saw like a video of it. I'm like, oh, maybe it gives a bonus to priests.
Right.
You thought.
And I was like, logically, you would just think 2 sides to an army. One already has a terrain piece that works for them. One doesn't. Okay. But nope. Just explicitly even worse for that side of the army. They went the opposite
in
direction.
the rules, Gutbuster's immune, Beast Claw, you're taking mortals from your own thing. Like, ooh, that goes a little farther than just like, well, you could play a wizard even though it's not really for you. That's one thing with the Mawpod, but this one is like it kills you. Like, oh shit. All right.
Great stuff. Great stuff. All right, Tom. What about you, buddy? You had a chance to do any hobby? I mean, obviously we went to the tournament. We got a lot done. You did get a lot hobby. And your army looked great. What you been working on?
Thanks. So I am expanding out. So this is actually going to blend into a news item as well, that I failed to mention earlier. But I am building right now for 2 different events. So I'm on like full on shop mode, right? On building. So I'm doing a Trugs Trog herd for Holy Wars. So I'm doing all the trolls, which just means 1 big guy and 12 small, which is great. As an aside, it's really hard to find Fellwater. Like the only reason why I have any Fellwater in my army is that I had 3 dusty ones in the old like bits box of other stuff because Fellwaters are impossible to get now. So, but that's fine. So I finished 12 trolls. My wife helped me with some of that, which was delightful. I appreciate that. And then I am on full build mode for the second half of the Soulblight army. And so I built 40 skeletons this week and a bunch of Ascurum True Blades, like a unit, or working on a second unit. I built or rebase 30 Grave Guard. So I'm just like a bunch of the heroes that I like, again, just kind of getting rid of sprues and trying to get stuff like fully assembled and prime, and then I'll refine the list. And I'm refining that list for Soulblight. For an event in April, we are actually Lexington, the city that I'm in, is actually hosting a 2-day event. It'll be the first one. Clay, who I believe is in the chat, we have a couple Lexington folks in the chat that I've noticed. Hey Mike. We did Clay is put together and arranged with one of our host stores to do a 2-dayer. Now here's the funny thing. It's sold out. Like, we did not go public and it already sold out. And there is already like a 6-person waiting list. And there's a chance that I don't know for the venue in the spring, but it looks like we may be doing a 2-dayer every 6 months is the target. And if that's 6 to 8 months, at least twice a year, I think next November-ish is when we're going to target our next one, I think. Clay is putting it together. But I say that only to say, so venue is going to be a big deal. So we're capped, I think, at our 30 some right now. We may be able to expand it more. But I want to encourage all of you that even though it's a wait list, if this is something that would interest you and it's drivable, go sign up for the wait list. It doesn't cost anything, but it's more about demonstrating what interest looks like for this region as we begin to plan our next event. So if that's something that interests you, I'm going to encourage our entire viewing audience to go bomb the waitlist sign up for this event, so that they just have a healthy view of what a potential event could look like beyond the 30 or 40 something that we have.
Very nice. Yeah, there you go.
If we get enough signups on the wait list, we can
potentially do double the size as early as November. Yep. Awesome. Mm-hmm. I will put the link down there so people can join the wait list. Absolutely. I'm signed up. Tom, you're signed up. I think Tyler is coming, you said, right? And Anthony's coming up. So it's going to be a good time.
Yep. Tyler's going to come out. Yep. So yeah, it'll be a blast. So, and it's actually like the current venue is in a mall. Like, it's a mall and they have like good play space, for a good like 16 to 20 tables. And it's right off the food court. So like, you will never find another venue where you will play, finish for lunch, and step out and have like 10 or 15 food options already.
Sure.
Nice.
Get that Panda Express just rocking right away. All right. So maybe a Sbarro. Who knows? Could be crazy. Maybe a Wetzel's Pretzels. There's lots of options. My food references to
all of them
have
are
not changed since 1998.
I am pretty sure all of those that you have mentioned are. I'm gonna get a Poke Bowl. That's probably where I'm gonna start.
There you go. All right, very good. Excellent. All right. Well, gentlemen, with that, shall we turn to our main topic tonight? AoS Commander? What? So I'm going to set this up, but really I'm not going to be the one guiding this particular presentation, because this presentation is courtesy of one Mr. Halo Twitch. And I want to set this up first. So last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't even know.
Man,
How
since
long
COVID,
ago?
time has no meaning, all right?
Yeah, exactly. Some time ago, we got Warhammer
Thousands of years ago.
before the dawn of man. Yes, exactly. We got Warhammer 40k commander decks in Magic the Gathering, and it was pretty great. Legitimately, they're fun. I think most reviewers and people who are in the Magic world praise these decks highly. They're all very fun. They play against each other very well. They have a lot of interesting cards in them and designs. They represented the world very well. Like, each deck felt like its thing, and the characters and things that were represented felt very much like their thing, while also still bringing Magic the Gathering mechanics to life. And
many of the cards in there were useful in the broader game commander-wise itself.
Yep.
Tons of different stuff being used out of there. Also a bunch of custom cards, not just the commanders themselves, with like some Magic precon, but they went the extra mile and made just a whole bunch. I mean, some were reprints, but a whole bunch of brand new 40k themed cards with art and everything. They
yeah,
really
what
went
was it,
all out.
40 or 50 new designs per deck? I mean, it was on the
Yeah,
high
yeah.
end. So,
And Age of Sigmar got 4 cards that already exist with different pictures on them.
exactly. So
Amazing.
AOS got a dumb secret layer that was just printed over cards that weren't even that good and were all bad representations of their thing, because they didn't have, like, you know, a product director who was really secretly in love, who was obviously like super in love with it. Now, this year we saw the Doctor Who Commander crossover came out, and again you had a lead designer who was in love with Doctor Who and knows the lore and the background really well, and worked with the BBC and all of that, and made an amazing product. Again, I thought those were exemplary and great and fun and all of those. And so what, in my mind, the dream that I have is that someday we don't just get commander decks. We could do a whole set, Lord of the Rings style. Let's go. Let's cross over all the way. Let's not just have the
They're
decks.
doing a second one of Lord of the Rings, I think.
Yeah. Let's get in there. Let's get deep into this. This is where the AOS is big enough. We could easily do a whole set around. But for today, Halo has put together some custom commanders for every faction. So no matter who you're playing, you could have a commander and you could build a commander deck around this custom guy. It's as easy as just printing out a card. It's real easy to print cards. And just put them in a sleeve, and that's your commander. There you go. Congratulations, you did it.
Hey, they wrote Rule 0 for a reason. Works pretty well, actually, I have found. Especially if you play with the same people over and over.
Yes. I know normally tonight, pre-Thanksgiving, as it is a holiday tomorrow, we often do Thanky or Janky.
Oh, Thanky or Janky?
Yes,
My
don't
favorite
worry.
game show?
Don't worry, we'll have Thanky or Janky. It'll still come. It's just we're gonna do it. We're gonna do Thanky or Janky next week. Everybody chill out. It's all good. This was the week that we had everybody lined up to do it because of who was available and when and such. So this is what we're doing. We're not gonna skip a time tested, treasured segment like Thanky or Janky. Don't worry. Besides, we'll be able to get another week into the year before we look.
It's
back.
Up there with best of the worst. Like as
Of
far as
course.
game shows are concerned.
100%. By the way, if you like everything so far, hey, hit like, everybody, and subscribe and do all those things. Click things that make dings. It's super fun and helps other people find the show. There's so many people watching, and not many of you have hit like. It's as easy as just moving your mouse and clicking a button. It's fun. Just look, you'll be happier when you do it. Okay.
Click things that make dings. Oof,
yeah.
That's a good one. And we're at 66. Who will be the lucky one? We're only 3 away.
That's right. Okay. So with that, I have now given my preemptive sort of preamble here. So hey, well, I'm going to turn this over to you as we go to the first slide and the disclaimers. You want to walk through this stuff?
Well, first and foremost, before we start the presentation,
Before we do that,
this is going to be a really you know, it's a Magic heavy show. Not everybody in here knows about Magic. Basically, sorry, I can't catch you up, but I can at least quickly explain what Commander is and stuff like that. So, you know, before we start with the disclaimers and stuff, Commander's a custom player invented way to play Magic the Gathering. You choose a legendary creature, becomes your commander. It's sort of like the representation of your deck that you build. It's a 199 card singleton format, meaning you can only use one of any one card. The deck may only be colors of which the commander is. Like all Magic, it's pretty personal and customized, and you can use whatever you want, and that's a lot of fun. Your commander sits in the command zone. You can keep casting it over every time it dies or whatever. You basically always have access to it, although it gets more expensive. And it's not even recently anymore. I think it's the most popular way to play Magic, period.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of special as a player invented thing, I think. Anyway, that was briefest run through of what Commander is, and let's start the presentation. I have some disclaimers here. We got Lawrence Fishburne here judging us.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, Commander. These cards are designed for multiplayer and Commander specifically. Their effect on constructed formats has been completely disregarded. Pretend they're banned. I don't know. They're also meant as Commanders. Also, special note, since I was only designing Commanders themselves and not entire decks filled with new cards like 40k got, almost all the mechanics that you would think should be tribal, all ogres gain this, all deepkin gain that, are instead usually creature type agnostic so that people can play with them. Because I really do intend for people to play with these if they feel like it. If ever 33 entire precons were made, most of these would get keyworded up and synergized with a lot less stuff. Number two, expert level set. I pulled from all eras and mechanics, even failed ones. And there's no reminder text because I couldn't fit it, because the website, you couldn't make the text small enough to do so. Commander's an eternal format. Let's lean into it. You might learn some hidden gems or laugh that I actually wrote Bushido on a card in 2023.
Boom. Now we're getting into the good stuff.
That original Kamigawa, yeah.
To be clear, I have not seen any of these cards. He sent me the presentation, and I that was under me swearing I will not open it first. This is going to be me reacting in real time. I have not seen anything other than this slide.
It's an early Christmas, we'll say.
Absolutely.
Color identity. These commanders are the colors they ought to be individually and by faction, as far as I could reckon. Not as a cog in some giant fairness diagram meant to equally allocate all colors and combinations. No order can have black, no chaos can have white. Get out of here. If it makes sense, do it. Square pegs and square holes, all right?
Can I talk for a second there real quick?
Yeah, sure. You can. I'm just going to be going through these so you can jump in.
I want to jump in on color identity and really talk about this for a moment. An important concept in Magic is the 5 colors, the color pie, and that each of those colors has an identity, a theme, and that breaks down into mechanics, but it also that they tend to use. Like this color can access this mechanic very cheaply. It'll show up a lot. It'll be on a lot of cards, and it'll be at a low rarity, like it'll be a common, right? This color can access this mechanic, but only rarely, or only on rares, or only expensively, or cards that have it will cost more mana. This color doesn't get access to this mechanic at all. It's not part of its color identity, right? It's something I've often argued for that in Warhammer I wish we had more of by Grand Alliance, right? Where the Grand Alliances would have closer to a color identity. And it's easy to think about. So if you're a Warhammer player, this is I can wrap your mind around it like this. Think of because there's a little bit of this going on in Warhammer, but not enough. Think of the way death tends to recur models, right? Recursion, bringing back units, is a major theme for death, right? Nearly every army does it in some way or another. Either they refill models into the unit or they recur entire units back. That's a death thing. That's baked into the assumption of what the color identity is of death, right? Okay. Importantly, the 5 colors of Magic, white, black, red, green, blue. I said those in the wrong order, but it doesn't matter. Wooburg is how they're traditionally shortened. Is not an alignment chart. Okay?
Like, it's not good and bad.
It's not good and bad.
But honestly, Neither is Age of Sigmar. Order doesn't necessarily mean good. We do have murder cultists in Order.
Right. Exactly. The aforementioned Daughters of Cain earlier are like, their order, and their announcement trailer had the words murder, slaughter, in it. So blood, just saying. Okay. Like the bad guy in the original, you mentioned Champions of Kamigawa, the quote unquote bad guy, the villain of that set is like the human, like white color identity leader, Lord Konda.
Yeah.
Right? He's the actual bad guy who starts the commie war. Right?
And they created the artifact that which was taken so that the game pieces would kind of inform naturally what the story was doing.
Yep. So good guys can be any color identity, bad guys can be any color identity. It doesn't have to do with alignment. So that's a really important thing. And like briefest explanation just here real quick so everybody has some kind of grounding. The white color identity cares about life, healing, renewal, order, like all, and civilization, amongst many other things. It tends to like that kind of stuff thematically. Okay?
Law.
Yeah, absolutely. The blue color identity cares about thought, mind. It likes artifacts a lot. It likes making things. It likes being creative. It likes exploration and looking at like understanding the world as perceived through game pieces. So it could be looking at other people's hands, looking in your library, doing those kinds of things. It's also very control based. It's a sort of like being mental. It likes to take control of other things, or control other players' actions, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, both white and blue can control. White is usually preeminent, and blue is responsive. As far as all colors could be controlled, they just do it in their own way, so that these colors kind of have philosophies in how they approach similar game actions, you could say.
That's right. Tom, you were going to say something.
Each of these, I would say each of these colors are also associated with a loosely terrain type. Sometimes it's less obvious than, so for example, white mana is like plains, which is more like a blank slate, right, and in which to kind of order on, as opposed to something like islands or like water. Like blue is deeply associated with water creatures and other types of things, water and air, and so there is often a touch of like elemental aspects in some of the colors, and that's particularly true in blue.
Yep. Black cares about death, sacrifice, recursion, reanimation, these kinds of things. It believes in paying a cost for power, right?
Yeah.
That's oftentimes what happens. Yep, exactly. Red, we'll do it in Wooburg order this time. Red is about speed and emotion and impetus and, aggression, and it's closely associated with goblins and kind of everything they do, and fire and that kind of thing.
But also a lot of emotion, impulse, and short-sightedness, freedom, chaos, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Very much freedom, like rebel type things are often portrayed as being red or red aligned.
Types of freedom.
Yes. And then also has like red, white, and blue all kind of touch into artifacts in various ways. As they
everybody kind of cares about artifacts nowadays, especially after treasures started coming out.
This is true. Just some have like it's a question of how they interact with them. Like red will often want to sacrifice them, and blue will often want to go search for them, and white will often want to, like benefit or tax them or something like that. Either benefit from them or tax them or whatever. Okay. And then finally green. Green is like life and creatures and beasts. It's associated to the forest. It's associated with renewal and regrowth and things like that. Okay? So
instinct, independence, nature, a lot of that.
Yep. Okay. So that's just a basic grounding to get everybody set up. And so now, I'm going to turn it back to you to continue the disclaimers with balance.
All right. Balance. I only barely balanced these. They had 3 passes total, from idea to what you see. This is more design, less development. I have not playtested them beyond using my imagination. Enjoy. And finally, wordy. one of the main critiques and the thing that tends to always happen when people make their own custom rules or cards or war scrolls or whatever is that they end up totally filled with paragraphs upon paragraphs of words. The KISS rule is generally never in effect when it comes to amateur game design. KISS being keep it simple, stupid. Normally, I obsess over this. When fitting an entire god representing an entire faction onto one card, I hope you'll forgive my indulgences. Sorroway down there at the bottom, keeping us honest. Too much
Okay.
text, I'm sorry, but I don't care.
Very nice. Beautiful. All right. Let's go to the next slide. Well, actually, before I do that, Tom, is there anything else you want to add on this that we covered? Any other preemptive thing you want to get out there? I'll turn it over to you just for anything else and your terrible internet.
The only thing that I would add is that tribal or typal. So oftentimes some tribes sit in certain colors or color pairs. I don't know to what degree Haywo is going to actually touch on that, but for
Age of
example,
Sigmar just throws that
like Soul
into the ocean. Not to interrupt, but yeah. So
Yep.
in
But
Magic,
so for example, elves. Yeah, like in Magic, elves often sit in green, or that's where they started. And then you often see them in green and black or green and blue. Recently, we've had a little bit of white slipping in there with green and white, a little bit more. And so I just say that to say that in Magic and the larger world, the types are often associated with certain larger color pairs as well. I don't know if that informed into your decisions or not. That is something to know about.
It fed into the decision to make a lot of the creature types agnostic. Just because Age of Sigmar turns that on its head a little bit. There just aren't that many non-green elves. I mean, there's actually recently there's been a reasonable number of black ones, but yeah, and then goblins are almost always red in Magic, and that well, okay, some things do translate, but regardless.
Sure. It wasn't a guiding principle when it didn't need to be. That's the take home. Right.
I thought it was more important that people could just play with this, and most stuff says creatures you control, and if ever there was a real thing made out of this, it would be more limiting.
Right. All right, let's go to the next slide. Principles. Take us through your principles on this Haywo. What are we going for here?
All right, now we got John Goodman. I'm not a real designer, but I whipped up some principles of design for these. I don't know if they're right, but these were the ones I used. First one is to tell a story. The card should explain the character, even or especially to those unfamiliar with Age of Sigmar. 2 is evocative gameplay. The card should play similarly to how it and or its faction does in Age of Sigmar. Number 3 is copium parachute. Look to the lore for inspiration, especially if the war scroll sucks. This can and should be used to save number 2 playstyle as well, since AoS necessarily plays differently than Magic in many ways. Number 4 is deck building. The card should inspire build around me ideas. What kind of deck would want this? Can the player do something neat with this beyond simply casting it, etc. Number 5 is a representation of scale. The card's cost should be reasonably proportional to their might or importance in AoS, which is generally their point cost in game. But I wasn't about to write a 16 mana Nagash, so this guideline is a touch loose. Number 6 is wow factor. The card should feel impressive, powerful, and often make the game about it when it is in play. 6A has some necessary evils. Scale and wow factor together means mana costs will be high. It is a fact that in EDH, if your commander costs more than 4, it probably sucks intrinsically. Some bloated 7 mana Derp Lord takes forever to come out once and is difficult to recast, especially in non-green. To compensate for this, I have made them powerful. And as such, they are arguably nonsense when reanimated turn 2 or sneak attacked defense to the heart, or otherwise cheated into play early when run in the 99 rather than as a commander. I'm looking at you, King Broad, and some others. I have chosen to ignore this danger, as they are meant to be played as commanders, first of all, against each other, and surely you, dear viewers, play plenty of counter spells and instant speed removal already. Right?
Who wouldn't?
And finally, winks and nods include mechanical or emergent meld details that evoke in-game or meta references that AOS players can pick up upon. Remember Lord Rosewater. Big picture's great, but it's the little details players can fall in love with.
That's right. Love it. Okay. Very good. Let's go to the next slide. Every army's leader in Commander formats. The French.
Here we have Orson Welles with his Monster Zero Ultra and Matrix Shades.
Oh my god.
The general of this PowerPoint.
Beautiful. Okay, so AOS Army Commanders. Just time stamping this as we move over.
All
okay.
Right. Now, normally I start in alphabetical order with Stormcast Eternals.
Of course, as is
but
logical.
My army is ogres, and I like to think I designed them pretty well, and they're a good introduction to what I'm doing here. So we're starting with them.
We begin with ogres. I have it up on the screen. Ogre Maw Tribes, Gutbusters. May I read the card name?
Sure.
Okay, wonderful. This is Glob Glittermaw. Wonderful. I'm here already.
He is the leader of the Meat Fist Maw tribe in the lore, for those wondering at home.
Very nice. 6 colorless, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green, making him firmly Jund, which makes perfect sense for ogres. The tricolor combination that invented Devour feels very appropriate for ogres. I have no pushback here. Take us through Glob Glittermaw.
All right, Glob Glittermaw. He is a 4/6 for 9. Well, ostensibly 9, because he has affinity for food and treasure. Affinity is a mechanic which reduces your cost for however many permanents of that type are out, and there are food tokens and treasure tokens in Magic, so you could be getting some, you could be making some in your deck, and then look at that, he's cheaper. How nice. Plus, it's funny, and I think it fits really nicely. Affinity for food and treasure is just like perfect for a Gutbuster, right? Absolutely. He has menace and trample.
Yep.
Menace means he has to be blocked by at least 2 creatures. You can't do it with fewer. Tapped creatures you control have base power equal to their mana value. Untapped creatures you control have toughness, base toughness equal to their mana value. And his flavor text is big.
Amazing.
So this is a little bit of my hungry and eating representation.
Yep.
Out of combat, in combat, tapped and untapped. I could have had it be attacking, but I felt like it might be nice to expand it a little bit and let you play with that. And ogres have a bit of a sub-theme caring about mana value as a representation of girth.
I love it. So tapped on the attack, this guy's a 9/6.
It feels
and untapped,
appropriate.
he's a 4/9. I love it. It's beautiful.
This
guy's great.
For the rest of your guys.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. This is really good design. Tom, I want your feedback on this one, so I'm going to throw it over to you here. But this is an A+ to me. What a great ogre commander.
Yeah, I think the real genius of this card is actually how you're playing with mana value, and how, because it captures the je ne sais quoi of ogres, right? Of it being tied to their to this intangible like girth thing. And if you know anything about ogres in Magic, most of them are very high mana value. You know, like it feels appropriate and it feels big.
Yeah, they're expensive, and usually more expensive than their power and toughness would should be.
Yeah.
The only sad part about this here is you got to be this playing Glob does immediately shut off. You don't want to be running Glob and Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs at the same time. Because I make a bunch of ogre tokens with an effective mana value of 0 that come out untapped. Not a great day for your ogre tokens. Real ogres only, please.
It explicitly doesn't want you to make tokens.
Right.
It wants the real tokens will die to state-based effects.
Yep.
But that's because tokens aren't real. We want meat on the bones. We want real creatures. We want a presence.
That's right.
a very early design of this card did it to your opponent's creatures too in some way, so that all your opponent's tokens would be dying, but I went with the more elegant choice. All right. And that's
Beautiful.
this guy.
A+ from me so far. Real meat. I will also point out really great alignment here of the various color identities, like Menace, very frequently in black, very frequently in red. Trample, very frequently in red, very frequently in green. Food, green makes a ton of food. Treasure, red makes a ton of treasure. Like red and green, or red and black often play with affinity in different ways. So yeah, great stuff. Like all in all, wonderful synergy of color pairing and identity and
Green, both green and black make food, by the way.
This is true.
So actually, there's a good color alignment there as well.
Totally right.
Yeah, and there's a question from chat. You assume affinity doesn't reduce your mana value. It doesn't reduce the mana value, just what you have to pay.
That's right. Just your cost.
So no non-bows here.
Beautiful.
All right, some of these I have notes about, like, ooh, I came across this problem in the designing it, then
Sure.
here we'll ask a question. But most of them don't. So we can go on to the next one if you want.
Let's do the next one. All right. Ogre Moth Tribes. Beast Claw Raiders. Don't worry. We have one for both sides of the army. I know you're a big believer they are two different armies.
Well, I mean, not in the future, right? We know which way the wind is blowing. If they're doing it to orcs, they're going to do it to ogres, right? So,
but nonetheless, we've got Bragoth Vardruk, who is 4 colorless, and then Jund, so 1 black, 1 red, 1 green. Mm-hmm. All right, what do we got here?
This guy, Bragoth Vardruk, is the leader of the Boulderhead Alfrestone from the lore, for those paying attention at home. And he is a legendary snow creature, because there are snow creatures in Magic.
Beautiful.
He is a 6/8 for 7 with Menace, Trample, Haste. When he enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. As long as you are the Monarch, whenever a snow creature you control attacks, deals damage equal to its mana value to any target. And then, of course, we got ABC, always be charging.
Yep.
For this guy, I felt that Beast Claw is very much like a win more, lose more sort of faction on the table. And so I thought Monarch worked very nicely for this. They're emperors and kings and stuff in the lore. And so if you're the Monarch and you're doing damage to people and they're not doing damage to you, your guys are kind of overpowered and have humongous impact hits, which is sort of the damage they're dealing when they're attacking. And if you're losing, you don't have Monarch, your guys kind of shut off and you're running from the back seat, or back foot, I mean.
You're getting caught flat-footed. Like the worst day for the BCR is when they get charged by the more maneuverable army, and then
all your rules turn off. Yeah.
Yep, and all your rules turn off. That's right. Which is very much what's happening here. If you're on the attack, if you're able to push through, yeah, you're gonna have this guy has a big turn. The turn he drops if you've got other creatures in play, right? That's amazing, and it feels very ogre. Like that's lining up your 4 monster trucks, and then like just boom, 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 like landing 4 charges back to back, and just impact hitting down the line and causing devastation. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's a huge swing the turn it happens, but Commander is a 4-player game. It's going to be a long time before it's back to your turn. So,
yes.
Again, we have the mana value instead of like the power of that creature, because ogres are having this mana value theme. Menace, Trample again, except Haste, because Frost Swords are fast and Gutbusters kind of aren't. I mean, they're plenty fast, but you know.
Right.
Anyway, and that's this guy.
Love it.
Snow creatures in Magic all suck.
Yes,
100%. So once again, the mana value actually kind of helps there, because they're expensive and bad, and so at least they're going to do impact hits that are decent.
Right. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, the only challenge that I have here is that I just wonder if you couldn't have worked the Everwinter in something, because they have this like perpetual hurricane or this perpetual snowstorm blizzard, like chasing them wherever they go. And so I just wonder if there might have been something around that.
Well, Games Workshop
I don't want to overbake the card too much, right?
Fair answer.
Because they're not even going to write one for Age of Sigmar, the game.
Yeah.
I don't.
So maybe
extrapolating that to a card. I wrote snow on it. Isn't that enough?
That's close enough.
No, it's fair. And actually, your absence just maps to game. No, your absence just maps to Games Workshop's design. You're right. No, I'm wrong here.
Remember our
Absolutely.
first principles, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Got to
Yeah,
represent. But I mean, it's a fair criticism regardless. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Very nice. Let's keep going.
Next up,
Stormcast Eternals. Oh boy. And for Stormcast Eternals, we have the Celestant Prime. Big prime time. 3 colors, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 red. More commonly known as Jeskai. That combination of colors. Truly my favorite combination of colors. It's everything and everywhere I want to be. I'm going to say that like 5 different times because I'm a liar and I like everything. All right, so at any rate, take us through the Celestin Prime.
All right, this guy is a 4/4 for 6, Flash, Flying, Vigilance. Flash and Vigilance are Stormcastian mechanics in my estimation. Flash for Deep Strike, Vigilance for defense and stoicness and stuff like that. The Celestin Prime enters the battlefield with 2 1/1 counters on it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. Hurl Gal Miraz, which is Boast, which is a mechanic from I'm not sure which set, which says when you attack with this creature, you may pay the Boast cost
Kaldheim.
1 time. Tap target non-legendary creature with lesser power and gain control of it. It becomes a Stormcast Eternal, in addition to its other types. And so, Hurling Gal Miraz, pretty good in Magic, not great historically. But this ties into the lore of actual Gal Miraz in the books, in the core book and stuff like that, where it's a hammer that scales with the power level of whomsoever is holding it, and has the power to cleanse. Like if it hits a demon, it will like purify them and turn them over to your side. There's been people who have been hit by Gal Miraz and it sends them straight to the reforging chamber, and they've been reborn as a Stormcast and stuff like that. And so that's kind of where I was headed with this one. And the Celestin Prime entering the battlefield with counters on it for each time you cast your commander from the command zone this game. This is like the one guy that I made who might not be your commander, because just like in AoS, he's probably better in the 99 of some other deck. Just how the Celestin Prime is actually probably better in some other army than Stormcast. And so this ability here is sort of like him charging up his hammer in the heavens as you're playing the game and playing your commander, and eventually he'll show up and become big. If he is your commander, the first time you cast him, that counts, and so he's a 6/6 for 6. And the second time, you'll be paying 8 because of the commander tax, and you've cast him once, so he'll be an 8/8 for 8. And so he'll always scale up perfectly with the cost that you're paying for him, if it happens to be your commander.
I love this. I love this guy. So Flash means you can play anytime. You can play an instant. For those who aren't as informed, basically it just means think you can play at any time. Normally there's lots of restrictions on when you can play certain spells, but this guy can just like show up anytime. That's what Flash effectively means. Just like, oh, it's your turn and you're in the middle of something. If I have priority, boom, he's here. Right, and that's very lightning strike, very Stormcast, and yeah, Vigi just means they can effectively both attack and block. That's effectively what it means, to put it in the simplest terms possible. And I love that you tied it to Boast, where he's got to go into the red zone, right? He's got to go attack to use his special ability. Like
the Celestin Prime, he's got to. He even turns like you're throwing it. So
yeah, he's got to get out there, right? So I love it. I love it.
Interestingly, as an interesting like design element of Boast, what he's actually doing with that. So Boast, for that mechanic, is you attack, and on attack you can then pay the cost to trigger that ability.
One time.
Because it's happening on attack, you're actually going to it's going to happen one time, and you're going to actually remove a defender, which is super fascinating, because by doing it, you're going to tap and pull them to your side before blockers are declared. And so there's actually a fun little mechanic there with him being able to remove blockers off the field before they could block it.
Mm-hmm. And there's a few downsides, because stealing your opponent's guys permanently is very powerful. They're down 1, you're up 1, right? And so we're tapping it. It's a non-legendary creature, and it has to have a lesser power than Primetime does. Although Primetime does get kind of big if you've cast him a bunch, so that's fine. He scales to the late game. That's all right.
That's fine. I mean, these are the hardest ramp colors. Like Jeskai is famously your very
I mean,
difficult
you're
to,
using a
like,
bunch of
super ramp
artifacts,
in.
or you're not
Sure.
tapping a lot of mana. One of the two.
Exactly.
Well,
That's
Smothering Tide, but besides that.
of course.
And I didn't, so there aren't any here, but if there was going to be a commander like entire EDH deck, their keywords would be Flash and Vigilance, and their main ability would be um, when they would die, instead you exile them and they gain Suspend. And so that's reforging over the course of turns.
Yes. Yes. They're back. Absolutely.
In a multiplayer format, probably 2 Suspend. If it were 1v1, it would probably have to be a number of Suspend equal to, geez, I don't know, their power or their mana cost or something, because
Sure,
it'd be a little good, but
I love it.
and that's
Okay.
prime time. Although there already is a prime time in Magic, it's Primeval Titan, but I guess now there's 2.
There's 2. All right, next up, another Stormcast Eternals. We've got Bastion Carthalos, the Mega Chad himself. I love that you used your alternate art for him with
Yes,
the
I
hyper
photoshopped this
expanded
so he was
chest.
twice as tall and wide as everyone else in the background. Yeah, custom
So
art.
good. So good. He is 3 and Jeskai, white, blue, red. And yeah, like, take us through Bastion Carthalos. Okay.
All right, he is a 5/5 for 6 Stormcast Eternal with Flash Vigilance, just like they all have, but he has First Strike instead of flying. When Bastion deals combat damage, put a shield counter on it, and at the beginning of each end step, Bastion deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So, as we all know, Bastion heals to full life because of his magical full plate crafted by somebody, I can't remember who it is. But in Magic, everybody always does that. That's a
Right.
Magic rule. And so how do you represent something that's really special in AoS, but is simply how every creature works in the cleanup step of Magic? And so I decided, well, when he's fighting, he deals combat damage. We'll put a shield counter on him, which is a mechanic where they technically have indestructible like one time.
Right.
If they take damage at all, even if it wouldn't kill them, you have to remove the thing. And he has First Strike, so probably not going to die in combat unless you've blocked more than once in the turn sequence, or maybe they also have First Strike and he dies or something like that. And then his soul, from Akira laser, satellite laser ability. That's another one that in Age of Sigmar you can build up damage on stuff, but we got to clean up here. And so I'm like, well, we'll make it X damage, where X is equal to the number of cards in your hand to give you something to build around. It could just be 4 damage. It could just be lightning bolt every time for 3 damage. And I'm like, well, you know what? You're in Jeskai. Let's give you something to build around with all that card draw and have your opponents be scared of it and want to Doomblade this guy or actually Path to Exile or something like that.
Nice. I dig it. Tom, any thoughts on Bastion before we leave him behind?
No, it's good. I just wonder, like, I'm reflecting on if Jeskai is the right color set, and I think it is. But can you talk a little bit about your inclusion of red in that Haywo?
Yeah, red got a little bit grandfathered in because of Boros. Because Stormcast is in general giving me such a Boros vibe. There's a lot of First Strike. There actually is a decent amount of haste. They're deep striking and immediately doing something. They're the charging arm of pulling in a bunch of lore and stuff. Depending on your storm host, they are actually very fervent and proactive and sacrificial, actually, because they can regenerate. Many of their missions are like, well, to the last man, we can always reforge, but we need these citizens to get out of here. So there's a bunch of sacrificial stuff too. And a lot of red creatures are either sacrificed at the end of turn, or haste trample dies later. And they are human. And I want to push this. A lot of people, when they first saw Stormcast very early, they're like, oh, so these are empty suits? Is this like the Zinch guys from 40K? And they are very human and they feel emotions and all that. And red is very emotional. So for those reasons, I went Jeskai for all the Stormcast.
Love it. Okay.
I was just curious, simply because, like, I was hoping your answer was going to be Boros and not lightning. right?
Sure.
And so no, I agree with you. I think from the Boros side, I think that they definitely do resonate deeply on from that aspect of it. So excellent.
Very nice. All right. Next up, Cities of Sigmar, and we've got Talia Vedra, the
You almost
Lioness
did it.
of the Parch. I know. There's already a Thalia in Magic, and she is like a million versions of Thalia.
I typoed Thalia on this card 3 separate times during 2 of the different passes.
Sure.
Because I'm still used to typing Thalia, which is a Magic card anyway.
Absolutely. Sorry, Elec Man. Those were the two. Stormcast ones. I don't think we
There's
don't have a third.
27 factions in Age of Sigmar. Some of them got 2, but most of them didn't. So
Right.
Apologies.
All right. So Talia and Cities, and I love this, is Wooburg. 5-color commander. White, blue, black, red, green.
Their civilization, it takes all types.
Yep. Okay. All right. Take us through Talia Vedra.
All right, she is a 5/5 for Wooburg, which is white, blue, black, red, green. Human Crusader, flying. As long as each creature you control is a human, creatures you control have reach and melee. Reach a little bit representing shooting here, and melee is your creatures get 1/1 until end of turn for each player you are attacking. So if you're attacking everybody outward from your cities, you're getting bonuses for that. If you have the city's blessing, which is ascend, here we got, I had to include it,
Love it.
which means you have 10 or more permanents. If you have the city's blessing, whenever another human you control would die during the combat phase, put a 1/1 counter on it when you do regenerate it. And this is, she's got a War Scroll ability that rallies in combat as well. I wanted to represent that here. I wanted to make sure that her rules are very racist. Only humans.
Sure.
For every single thing specifically. Just like in Age of Sigmar. Sudden divergence from the lore I liked before. And overall, by the way, in Magic, the more colors your deck is, generally, the more difficult it is to assemble all of them immediately. Also, the more expensive it is to do so.
Yeah.
And so you might notice that, like, 5-color cards, oh, geez, this card's really good, but it only costs 5. Well, sometimes acquiring one of each of these will take you longer, or maybe be more expensive, or you'll have to jump through more hoops than even getting 6 or 7 might in some 2-color deck. And so
Right.
there's a little bit of Magic behind the scenes kind of stuff. Not so much with her, but definitely for Archaon.
Yeah, especially but when it comes to like budget and timing, you can look at like getting to a 7-mana mono green commander, and you're like, yeah, no problem. Turn 4, I'm there. Like, let's do this. Right? You look at a 5-color Wooburg commander, and you're like, well, I gotta stretch in a lot of different ways. I gotta have rocks and fetches and finds and all
You
sorts
gotta
of
play a
things.
bunch
that
of
let
other
me get
weird.
into it.
Here's something for 4 that gets you 2 different lands. You're sort of like
Right.
assembling a little Rube Goldberg machine to get your 5 out in time.
Right. Exactly. No, I love all of the colors here being for cities, because you're right. I mean, if there's anything that's Wooburg, it's 100% cities. There's everything in here. You look at the difference between Hammerhall and Misthaven and so on and so forth. It's like,
And what was once Anvilgard.
yeah, sure, absolutely. You know, like these colors run these cities run the gamut. The only thing that binds them together is just they are cities of civilization. That's it. That's their feature. They're not lunatics running around in the wilderness trying to destroy or kill everything. That's it. Very nice. Okay, love it. Next up. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hold on. I appreciate that the meta call out to this idea of like the Dawnbringer's Crusade about expanding your territory.
Mm-hmm.
You see it in both the melee ability, which has you pushing out on all players.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
you're being awarded for basically extending your territory in all directions.
Yes.
Right. And with the Ascension, it's calling out like a fun ability. Obviously, you're trying to build up. You're trying to establish your city, which your civilization. So like, it's such a great like meta call out to the narrative of what this faction is. And this is the 5-color fighty commander we need. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. We don't have enough 5-color fighty commanders, actually. That is true. A lot of janky combo-y 5-color
A
commanders.
lot of
All right.
eminence.
Yeah, exactly. Just existing is benefit enough for some. All right, certain dragons, which will go not named. Okay, cool. Daughters of Cain, Marathi, the Shadow Queen. No longer shall she be denied. Okay. So she has 4 colors: a white, a black, and a red, more commonly known as Mardu. The color combination here. My favorite color combination, I should say. Love Mardu. It's the color combination of Tariel, the angel, and a lot of other great, like, angels tend to go with this color combination.
Returning creatures from graveyard at random.
Exactly.
Recursion.
These 3 colors are everything I want to do in Magic. It's perfect. Okay, take us through this one.
Bit of trivia: Marathi was the first card I made for this experiment. She is a 7/5 for 7 with flying, death touch, and haste. Death touch means any amount of damage is enough to kill something she deals damage to, not necessarily combat damage for those combo players out there. She enters the battlefield with 3 shield counters on it.
Yes. The
Other
Iron
creatures
Heart
you
of...
control with Death Touch have First Strike, and so you're kind of building a Death Touch crazy lady sort of. And First Strike and Death Touch, it might even be oppressive if your opponents are trying to play fair and square meat and potatoes Magic, which I don't know how many people actually do, but ostensibly a bunch of people do. And so your creatures could be totally safe and just tapping 1, being blockers, anything like that. And the Iron Heart of Cain, Marathi can't be exiled.
That's an incredibly funny ability. Like, that is a wild ability. But yeah, no, I love it. I love the shield counters.
Because you gotta wait 3 turns, before you can kill her.
You gotta wait 3 turns before you can kill her. And she's a problem when she comes down. She's hard to get rid of, no doubt. She sticks.
You're looking at your Sword to Plowshares, and for once you're like, this isn't gonna do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's
no
not gonna
swordsies,
work.
no pathies.
And Doomblade's not either.
Yeah,
because like obviously she has 3. Well, she's black, but she has 3. She has 3 different.
You can
shield
pick
counters
Go for
on
the
her,
Throat.
so
She's not an
that's gonna be
amateur.
a
She's not
problem.
an artifact. So there you go. Your Go for the Throat would work as an example.
Once you got rid of the shield counters.
Regardless.
But you gotta do it.
You gotta do it. You gotta fight through them shield counters. Yes.
Yeah, it's so good.
And you might want to, because it's a flying haste commander in black, and so maybe are they running Hatred? Is this a one-shot? It's a concern.
I love it. One of the things I love about Magic, I'll just talk about on this card, is like, she's a very potent commander when you think about how she would play in the game. She'd come down again, like
she punishes meat and potato play styles, I think.
Yeah.
I did that on purpose, because she does in AoS too.
Absolutely. And yeah, 100%. I think that's a great representation of how she plays. Like, if you just got somebody trying to build like some go big tribal deck, right, or something like that, or kindred deck or whatever.
I'm going to swing with guys and block with guys. And you're like, well, I have First Strike and Death Touch.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. As somebody who had like a First Strike Death Touch commander deck for a little while, I will say it is an oppressive thing. But at the same time, one of the things I love about Magic that isn't present in AoS really as much is the field is so wide of answers. Like, as sticky as this girl is, there's still a million things that answer her.
Yes.
That's what's so funny, right? She's one Kenrith's transformation away from being a 3/3 elk. Okay?
Yep.
With no abilities.
She's one Brine Elemental from just getting turned face down and being a 2/2 forever.
Right.
Or
from
your opponent can be like, hey, that's a cool creature.
Whatever.
Ooh, yeah, she gives Death Touch. That's sweet. Hey, I win. Good creature, though. But I win. Good game.
Right. Yeah. And so I love that the pool and the experience of Commander and Magic. This is truly one of my favorite things about the experience of Commander Magic, is that like things are so wild in the interactions that will occur that everything always has an answer, always. in a table of 4 people running wild decks, right? And that doesn't even have to be expensive decks. It could be like 4 people running relatively budget decks. Nothing costs more than $100. And you'd still have that kind of interaction going, right? That's what's amazing.
Yeah, your opponent could be on a 14-cent Molder Slug and just tap 3 red and kill her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By exiling his library for some reason. Like you're just or one grape shot when 3 people have cast a spell and the shield counters are gone, and now, there's always an answer.
There's always an answer. Electman's 24
she
said,
could be Chatterfang Squirrel Down as well.
That's, of course, always.
Is there a reason why Marathi isn't a god? Asks Electman in the chat. That is a great question. Let me look to my notes. I think I wrote something about this. Oh yeah, her creature type is probably a whole can of worms, is what I wrote. She should probably have the creature type god, or arguably demigod. Is it really an avatar of Kane? Honestly, the creature type, I wanted to say the word Kane so that somebody new to AoS would know what army it refers to. And there it is.
Sure. You could always do like God, Avatar, Kanite. That could be what it actually boils down to.
Most of the decisions as pertain to creature types here is like I ran out of space. Mm-hmm. It looks like you can fit God in there. You kind of can't. It bleeds into the I tried.
Into a little logo. Yeah. All good. All good. And there are plenty of God avatars around. Like that's a thing that does exist. So. Okay. Oh, I like God, Elf, Serpent. There you go. It's good.
Yeah. There you go. Gorgon.
That's a good
maybe. There are Gorgons in Magic.
There are Gorgons, yeah. Absolutely.
Give her monstrosity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Boom. Fire Slayers. Norgrim Grimnir. We're getting into some hybrid action. We got a hybrid mana commander.
Guild mana in here.
Love it. Okay, 3 colors and 2 hybrid red-white mana. All right, take us through Norgrim Grimnir.
Okay, so it was hard to find a named impressive Fire Slayer, thanks Wikipedia, but they all have -Grimnir in their names. That's what the Rune Fathers do. So he's a Rune Father, 5/5 for 5 with Vigilance and Battle Cry. When you cast Norgrim Grimnir, for each mana from a treasure spent on guild mana up here, to cast it, search your library for a basic mountain, put on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. When Norgrim Grimnir is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. And so this is that molten magma draw damage reflection stuff. It comes pre-packaged with a fun little build around me. I need playing a Norgrim Grimnir and a Mug Maniac and 2 of those red-white, reflecto damage guys. And then, it's time to Blasphemous Act. Hey, everybody takes 26. Let's go.
I love this. I love that it cares about the treasure you spent to cast him, which is because they're mercenaries. And if you spend the treasure, you get to go get mountains, which is their holds. You get to go get the flame hold or whatever.
Notice I didn't say mountain or plains. It's only a mountain because that's where their holds are.
That's where their holds are, right? And we've got the Molten Blood perfectly and the Battle Cry. Again, another, wants to go out, wants to get in the red zone, wants to attack. And he leads all the other Fire Slayers and gives them basically a bonus. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Battle cries whenever he attacks. All other attacking creatures get 1/0. +1/+0.
Man,
Vigilance doesn't tap to attack.
This is good design. For like communicating story through mechanics, this is good design. I have to say, like I was able to reverse engineer exactly what you were going for, just reading it there and then knowing what Fire Slayers are. I was like, okay, yep, I get the story. They were evocative. They were just like an emergent property of the mechanics. And let me tell you what, people at Magic, I'm normally talking to Games Workshop, but hey, Wizards of the Coast, I'm talking to you now directly. You should, whenever you do this AOS, which I'm sure is coming anytime, you should be reaching out to Halo directly to consult on this set. This is incredible work. Tom, any thoughts for Norgrim? This is one of your armies.
It is. I think that as Electman24 in the chat mentioned, it's a miss for not Bale Grimnir, because we've seen War Scrolls for him as well. He's the named Rune Father for Vostart. That said, this is banging on all cylinders. Both I think Vigilance and Warcry make sense. Less so maybe for Vigilance for myself, but Warcry or Battlecry, sorry, absolutely. I love the treasure spent. I expected to see some treasure generation here, and there wasn't. And so I thought it was a real interesting,
No, they don't make it.
obviously it
They got to get it.
incentivizes that in the rest of the army. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. And yeah, and then obviously the build around is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, the build around is fun. Put some
So
Star of Extinction in there for your damage reflecting creatures. Everybody takes 20. Maybe Stuffy Doll. What's that? Brash Taunter
Brash
guy.
Taunter,
You can,
yeah.
yeah. Brash Taunter pet card
Yeah.
for sure. That guy's fun.
Of course.
Anyway.
Very nice. Okay.
Apologies
Yeah,
for
I'm
the
in.
not Bale Green
Yeah,
here,
good.
by the way.
It's all right. We'll forgive you for not knowing the deep lore of 27 armies or whatever, like, yeah. Especially the ones that don't normally have named characters that are just self-evident in the book.
By the War Scroll or something. I think Bale has a War Scroll, though, so maybe I
He
should-
did at one point. They eventually retired.
He does. It was a Dragon
that's
magazine.
why. Okay.
It was in, you don't mean Dragon, but yes, it was in White Dwarf.
Or
Dragon magazine? Oh,
there we go.
It was in Dragon magazine,
I
1991.
used to get those. I used to get those.
It's a great issue. Go check it out. Okay, here we go. Next up, Idneth Deepkin with Volturnus, King of the Deep, who is 2 colorless, 1 blue, and 1 black, more commonly referred to as Dimir.
He is a 3/4 for 4 with flying. Volturnus has hexproof as long as you control at least 1 other creature. And then we have the Tides of Death paragraph that I couldn't escape from. Volturnus enters the battlefield with 3 Tides of Death counters on it. At the beginning of combat on your turn, remove 1. When you remove the last one, creatures you control gain flying, trample, double strike until end of turn. Then put 3 Tides of Death counters on Volturnus.
Nice.
And so everybody can see it coming. Flying, trample, double strike, by the way, is crazy strong.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like, you win strong. But, I mean, you're Babe Ruth pointing to the outfield. Everybody knows it's coming. They read your commander when you sit down. He comes out. He's got counters on it. Even if you're rushing and you got, like, spinal parasites and you're removing the counters to get it right away, everybody knows it's going to happen. And Forgotten Nightmares is my representation for the has hexproof as long as you control at least 1 other creature.
Yep. Because they have to target the other thing, not him.
Yeah.
It's the Forgotten Nightmares. Yes, absolutely. Again, perfect. They can't target him. Yep, because they forget he's there because there's somebody else in the way. Yeah. You got to hit the Thrall or whatever, something else. Yeah. I think Idneth being Dimir reads absolutely correct. Now, this is generally a pretty... Like,
It's
this
a lot
is
more
often...
lore. It's more lore than it is necessarily, I think, gameplay for the color identity. Maybe there's some red in there or whatever, but I went with Dimir for the lore. They're psychic vampires.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes Dimir ends up being... First of all, Dimir ends up being a color that, like, that kind of mind vampirism occurs in. Like,
Yeah,
Dimir
Surku,
very much has a...
lobotomist, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like a milling type strategy, a
Yep.
forgetting type strategy. That's like milling type things where you're just taking your library and throwing it into the graveyard is oftentimes cast in the sort of theme of cards as memory or mind manipulation or stuff like that, right? Where it's just like making you crunch your spells. And so I think it fits very well for them. It's also traditionally a pretty villainous quote unquote color combination. So like there's been zombie decks in this color combination and a lot of bad things. But again, it's also like the spycraft color combination, right? And the sneaky infiltration color combination.
Surveil, Skulk, Ninjutsu are all
Exactly.
in those.
All those types of creatures often show up in this place. So it
There's
very
even,
much
like, a
makes
literal
sense. for
rogue
them.
one. What is it called? When you attack with a rogue or something like that. I can't remember what the name is. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, nope, I'm with it.
Prowl,
I dig the
that's
heck out of
it.
this. Prowl, there you go. Okay. Yeah. Tom, any thoughts for Volturnus?
No, I like the only thing that I was wrestling with is should this be Sultai? Like, should green be the 3rd color here? And I think that I think it's just my merfolk bias that is pushing me that direction rather than the actual lore.
Yeah, because there's nothing in the lore I think that makes them green.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean,
No,
consider.
I
I
agree
mean,
with that. I agree with that.
think about the giant, whale beasts we have in pure blue, in Magic, right?
Sure.
Like a giant turtle.
Mhm, mhm.
I guess maybe in this era of Magic design, a giant turtle would be like Saltai or something like that. But yeah, we got Leviathans and Merfolk and everything in mono blue. I didn't see a need to pull another color into it.
Agreed. All right. Next up, Caradron Overlords. So our commander here is Brock Grungson, who is white, blue, black, red. So basically everything except green for a 4/4.
Speaking of not pulling green into things,
Yeah, indeed. Boy, if there's one color that definitely shouldn't be on this guy's card, it is that color. Okay, so take us through Brock.
he is a 4/4 for 4. Caradron Overlord, flying haste. When Brock Grungson attacks, defending player reveals top card of their library. If it's a land card, exile it, put it onto the battlefield under your control. Otherwise, create a treasure token. Pay 2, phases out. Fly high.
Fly high.
He is a pirate. He steals lands. He steals treasure. He generates it. He's got haste because they're the most alpha strike army in the world every other 6 months in between nerfs. And he's the colors of capitalism and honestly humanity, minus the green.
Yep. And
he's maybe the most generically strong commander here
Sure.
when you consider mana cost.
He just like gets in there and slaps really hard. Yes.
He's just a little treasure and land generating machine in a color that normally isn't supposed to get extra lands necessarily.
Sure.
And he protects himself, and he's just generically great. Pure good stuff, which I consider maybe a little bit of a failing, honestly, on this guy. I tried to stay away from just pure good stuff, and he, I think, gets the closest to it. He's going to be annoying to play against because he's going to be flying high all the time, but then he's gone and you can swing it. You know, it's not unbalanced.
Sure.
Are you using the artifact type just simply to reflect the use of technology?
It's just that. And also his suit and everything like that, yeah. He kind of comes equipped, you might say.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I mean, he's in a giant mecha suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah.
I understand he's not like cybernetic in the
he's not a robot,
sense,
yeah.
But like, you know, he does have a mustache machine gun, so I'm buying artifact creature. I'll accept that. By the way,
I can imagine ironclad vehicles.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
KO would certainly get some vehicles, wouldn't they?
Oh, it'd be a great day. I love me some vehicles. By the way, chat out there, if you've got comments, if you're, comment on them, talk about them. Did Haywo get the colors right? Is there other abilities you want to see in there? Throw your 2 cents in. I'd love your feedback. Want to see what y'all think as well. How we doing so far? If you haven't hit like yet, hit like for all of Haywo's amazing hard work putting all of this together, and sharing it with all of us. So just want to say thank you, Haywo. Okay. All right. Cool. Let's keep going here. Boop boop. Lumineth Realm Lords, Teclis and Selenar for 4 colors, 1 white, 2 blue, 1 green. So this would be the color combination frequently known as Bant. B-A-N-T. Oh my goodness, I see it already and I'm excited. All right, take me through it.
All right, so Teclis and Selenar, Luminath God. They are a 4/5 for 8. Flying Bushido 2. This is a failed mechanic from Kamigawa where if it blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +2/+2. On a turn. Teclis can't be countered. Spells you cast can't be countered. If you cast Teclis from the command zone, it enters the battlefield with total eclipse. Spells your opponents cast cost X more to cast, where X is equal to the mana value of that spell. Double cost these. This is brutally oppressive to play under. In fact, okay, compared to how it is in AoS, is a summer day with a glass of lemonade compared to doubling costs in Magic the Gathering.
Sure.
He requires you to play him as the commander to get his good ability, not just for balance, although it is for balance. But for arrogance, if you don't give him the respect he deserves, he'll take his ball and go home and become the worst 4-5 for 8 you've ever seen.
This is so good. Yes, just crippling if Total Eclipse is up, but obviously he himself is eminently answerable. He is
He
making
takes
all
forever
of
to
your
come
spells
out,
hurt or
but
shit. Yep,
you're in
yep.
green, so
Sure. Tom, what's your feeling on Teclis and Selenar? We're really in your army space here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is this. I struggled with, there are two things about this that I struggled with. One is the green typing. Like, I can see it, but initially my go-to would have been just blue-white. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on why green and why Bushido, other than the fact that he, because, visually it has this Eastern aesthetic.
the answer to both questions is lore. So Teclis and Selenar, specifically only just Teclis. I would be very receptive to a simply blue-white, but this is the whole of Lumineth Realm Lords. And with all the mountains and earth spirits and giant cows and this ain't your mama's high elves, I think I'm ready to admit that there is actually a lot of green in the lore of Lumineth. As well as Bushido, not just the look, but it
Like
is
the
the look.
elemental.
Yeah, a lot of elemental stuff. And for Bushido, I mean, that's just so suffused in all of their lore and discipline and enlightenment and warrior tastes and all this other stuff that I felt I had to. It was the most harmless keyword addition ever, because who cares? It's Bushido, but I think it's pretty representative of the faction in a certain way.
Whoa! Don't be hating on one of my favorite mono red commanders of all time, Fumiko of the Low Blood with Bushido X. Okay, let's just.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean this is really great. As Electman said, it's a shame that we weren't able to capture in the sort of Technado like storm of searing white light type of thing that he has. But I assume that'll be
Those
your
are
other
extra spells. No,
Yeah,
those are spells you cast.
You put
Yeah.
those in your deck, yeah.
Those are instants or sorceries in your deck.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay. Very nice. Russell said flavor wins all over the place.
That's
with
what
this
guy
one.
is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Jacob says double a free is still free. That's right. You get around Total Eclipse, play free spells. There you go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Force of Will still costs 0. Just discard a card. Easy.
That's right. Okay. Lord Croak as we travel into Seraphon land. Our mummy frog. Lord Croak is 1 white, 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 green for a 2/4. All right, take us through this bad boy.
All right, here's Lord Croak. He is a legendary enchantment creature, frog. Frog is a creature type in Magic. It's actually been getting some popularity as we move forward. So the card face of him is the enchantment creature Theros kind of thing. So the gods in Magic, at least during that block and a few others, are indestructible. They're not technically creatures unless enough people worship them, and so there's where we get this devotion mechanic. The 2/4 for 4, flying indestructible. As long as your devotion to non-black is less than 9, Lord Croak isn't a creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, Lord Croak deals X damage to each opponent and you scry X, where X is the number of dinosaurs you control, which is an actual big tribe in Magic, particularly in Naya colors, which is white, red, green. I ran out of space for the creature type. He should be Frog Lich God, but I settled for Frog.
So good. Tom, what do you think about Lord Croak? This feels like a very you commander.
Yeah, like one I would say is this, like nothing made me more of a believer in space dinosaurs than this card, in fact. Like I this is a real faction now. Thanks,
Right.
Halo, you did that for me. This gave it skin. Yeah, it's just gas. Like I love this on every level. It calls out to the standard god like mechanics that we will often see. It calls out to it's just a banger on so many different levels. And I, I'm a big dinosaur fan, so I'm in.
in a way, I was kind of lucky that Magic had such a ready-made representation prepackaged for me for how Croak's weird life and wounds and how he exists in AOS mechanically in the game. It's like, ooh, you have to roll and the damage goes away and he stays alive because you're doing this weird thing because he doesn't have a body. And I'm like, oh yeah, they did that in Theros. Easy. Like, this is perfect. Um, here's a design question in my notes. Devotion to non-black, I think, inspires a rules question when the average player first reads it. What about colorless? Because I'm saying non-black. Every other Theros god is your devotion to, and then they specifically say like red or green and blue, and usually it's about 5 more than whatever is printed on the card.
Sure.
Well, the answer is the devotion mechanic cares specifically about color, and colorless by definition is not that. I think the question appearing at all warrants some kind of maybe rewording, even if it's as distasteful as space wasting, with spelling out each of the 4 colors in the rules text. Did you, upon reading this, think, ooh, non-black, maybe you get devotion from colorless, or?
No, but I mean, I like devotion a lot as a mechanic, so I was already familiar with it.
Okay.
I mean, I think probably for like pure clarity, you would write it out as your devotion to white, blue, red, and green is.
I can fit an extra
less
single
than
line on
9
this
or
card,
something
so,
like that. Yeah. I think that would be cleaner. Russell says, I like the flavor a lot, but I wish he did more when he hit the board. Even for 4 mana, I think he should be blasting something when he ETBs. You do have to wait a full turn cycle on him before he does anything.
Yeah, but he's hard to get rid of. As an indestructible enchantment that's not a creature, those things often stick around for a long time.
True.
And indeed, the player who's playing them usually wants to keep them a non-creature,
Right.
to be honest, because it's real easy to exile a creature, not so much an enchantment.
Not a lot of people running revoke existence. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. Or they're one chaos warp in their entire deck. They're just like, let's see, what are my notes? I have a lot of notes for this guy. He used to be an enchantment creature tribal, like it was tribal enchantment creatures. And in my head, the Seraphon are all enchantment creatures, but Enchantress is like too strong and it's solitaire, and you'd have to print a whole bunch of special dinos for that. And I think what people really want is an excuse to add blue to Oops All Dinos deck. So here we are.
I mean, there are 6 printed 6 mono blue dinosaurs in Magic, so it's not like there's no just mono blue dinosaurs, and there are quite a few multicolored dinosaurs that have blue
mostly
in their color identity. Like there's a lot of blue green and stuff like that, or something like that. Like there's plenty of dinosaurs.
I think blue is a pretty easy argue for Seraphon as well.
Oh, absolutely, especially for Croak as well. Yeah, Mr. Magic, Mr. Mind, Mr. Future Seer. I didn't mention it, but that's another thing blue often has in its color identity, is like future sight and being able to see and manipulate time and prophecy and stuff like that. And that's very much Croak's whole business. So I think you're right, because making it just dinosaurs then doesn't care. If you'd made it enchantments, you would have been specifically talking about Starborn, right? By making it dinosaurs, it feels more like Coalesced or Starborn. Yeah. It's just like they're still dinosaurs. They still are what they are. So that's fine. Okay. Cool. Very nice. Alrighty. Sylvaneth Alariel, the Ever Queen. 4 colorless, 1 white, 1 red, 2 green. All right. For a 6/6. Take us through the Everqueen.
All right, Alariel the Everqueen is a 6/6 for 8 legendary land creature forest god, so she counts as a forest. She taps for mana. I couldn't fit forest Sylvaneth god, and I actually had to put forest in there for rules reasons, because it's a type. Anyway, she has flying and lifelink. Clearly. When you cast Alariel, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them, put it on the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. And of course, doesn't even tap to do it. Pay a green, regenerate Alariel. Who, by the way, she can tap herself, but then she can't attack. So she infinitely regenerates unless you kill her with mortal wounds, which is like exile effects, Swords of Plowshares. And we have Strike and Fade in the main paragraph. For creature comes out, swings, and then back into the safety of your hand at the end of turn.
Yep. I love it. By the way, just real quick, Russell had said on the previous one on Lord Croak, he said something like you can cast dinosaurs as if they had flash. Would be a fun thing to add to Lord Croak. That is, there might be an interesting one where you could be like, if Lord Croak is a creature, you can cast dinosaurs as though they had flash. So there would
Because
actually
most
be
players
incentive.
aren't going to want to do that, so you want to give them an
Like
incentive to do so.
Yeah, exactly. Like that could be an interesting way to sort of add to that, to have him, because he frequently will just spawn people off. Like that's what he does. He remembers them into existence. So that's a good way to sort of represent their summoning. But he has to be there to do it, right? Like he can't just be like the idea of Croak up in his spaceship or something. He's got
no eminence. Your creatures have flash. None of that.
Right. Okay, but back to Ilario. Yes, I like the Strike and Fade. I love that she's a land creature. I love that she's a forest. I love creatures that tap for mana because they're just lands. Like this is a wonderful, rarely used thing. We got Dryad Arbor in Future Sight or whatever, and we just haven't plumbed that well deep enough since then. And first of all, regeneration. I hate that we got rid of this mechanic and stopped printing it on cards. I bring back regeneration.
Regenerating enjoyers rise up.
That's right. I'm here for it. You will blow people's minds at your commander table when you slap out a 2-mana Rapid Vigor, or as I like to call it, heroic intervention at home. Like the number
heroic
of times
intervention for $18 less.
Yeah, for 8 cents or whatever. Yeah. It's so funny how often people will just rely on board wipes that are just destroy. It's like, yeah, well, no, I regenerate. So I'm here for regeneration. I'm here for it. I'm here for the Strike and Fade effect too. I love that she has no protection, by the way, at all. Just as per standard, other than she can regenerate, she can heal. But just like in AoS, it's like, that's it. She's not hexproof. There's no other these she's not getting shield counters. No
protection from blue, no ward. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Play a Swiftfoot Boots if you want something. Play a Lightning Greaves. Put that in your deck.
My only question here is, I think there's one ability that maybe isn't present with her. Especially since she's got a red-green color identity, at least as part of it, right? It feels like she should also be Trample with that big beetle.
I could see Trample for that.
She hits pretty hard. The beetle does do impact-y type stuff and has those big giant horns that hit hard on the charge and stuff. So it's she does care about things like that. And in this identity, it feels like she wants to be doing that thing. So you should have her out there and want her to attack, and Trample will make you want to put her into the red zone more, right? Because then people can't just chump her infinitely.
Yeah.
So there you go. That was my only pushback on her. Other than that, love it.
All right. Adding Trample isn't out of pocket in my notes for Ilario.
Very nice. Very nice. Tom, any thoughts on Ilario the Everqueen?
Should the Strike and Fade, you'd have to change the wording on this. But should the Strike and Fade be on either casting her? Well, here's the question: should it be on cast or should it be on attack?
Yeah, where you're doing it every turn.
I wanted it to be on cast.
Yeah,
because you can only Strike and Fade with one thing, and to help an 8-mana commander at least do something when it gets countered every single time. And so I put it on a cast trigger for her. And Sylvaneth is a pretty magical faction. They don't have the craziest bonuses necessarily, but they do be cast in those spells. Original versions of other versions of her had when she attacked, put a creature from your hand out. When she entered the battlefield, Eladamri's Call effect, just Worldly Tutor something to your hand. The flickering kind of got out of control there. Creatures you control are forests in addition to their other types, and so you could channel some huge thing. But I went with cast trigger, and then from the library out, tutoring some creature and just putting it out was it made her into a total combo deck, and that's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
But I wanted her to strike and fade, not combo people out.
Okay, I would put one change
Yeah.
on this. Hold on, I think I got this. I think I can solve your problem,
Okay.
Tom. Okay. The problem, like, I like it as a cast trigger, it's fine. It's now you're not flickering her and stuff like that, right? It's whatever. But she is a hugely expensive commander at 8. And the nightmare situation with an 8 mana commander is you whiff, right?
Yeah.
So I think the wording should be,
Oh, until you hit a creature.
look at the top 6 cards. One of two situations. Either go until you hit a creature, or, like, that's option 1. Here's option 2. You may reveal a creature card from among them or from your hand and put it onto the battlefield. It gains haste. Because then you're just taking it out of your hand, putting it onto the board, and then picking it back up. So it feels very strike and fade.
Yeah,
right?
it feels more like that when you're doing it. I agree.
And then when you know you cast her, you know, like, maybe you get a better hit out of the top 6 or whatever, right? But you know, okay, I've got this thing in my hand, so I'm definitely not whiffing. You don't want to whiff an 8 mana commander.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Before you said or also,
Yeah, I feel better.
I was thinking of expanding it, like, will reward you for getting Ilario countered 3 times, and so you look at the top X, where it's whatever mana you spent on her or something like that,
Sure.
to open it up more. But I think I like hand out.
That just feels very naturally strike and fade, right? It was there. It was, back, not really participating in the battle, as people tend to play with Sylvaneth, where it's like in the back corner, and there's a woods right here, and the model's sitting right here, and it goes boop, hit, boop, all the way back. And I cannot think of a better representation than hand, attack, back to hand.
Yeah, the possibility of whiffing on an 8 cast, I think you've convinced me on that, and the hand thing just feels more like that. Yep, I agree. Into the notes it goes.
All right, we got there. Okay, cool. Very good. All right, let's keep moving. Order. Oh, you did order generically. I didn't know you had the Grand Alliances too. Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did.
Gotrek Gurnison as the order commander. 4 colors, 3 red. All right, take us through this nightmare. Here we go.
All right, so this guy's an old school card. They didn't have the old card face, but I would have used it on the website if they had it.
Sure.
Because I used ancient
The old
Rob
border.
Liefeld looking style comic art on here. He is a star for 7. Legendary creature Avatar. The likes of which Sarah Avatar of the past has used and stuff like that from other old cards. He has Double Strike and Shroud. Shroud is a ancient version of Hexproof, which has the downside that no one can target it, not even you. Just like if you're playing Gotrek in your army, you can't target him with your soupy abilities. He enters the battlefield tapped because he is slow. If damage dealt to Gotrek, prevent all but 1 of that damage. His power and toughness are each equal to your devotion to red.
Nice.
And
Okay.
so he's a humongous, no trample, kills anything, enters tapped. You can't target him. It's very hard to buff him because of that. Your opponents can't. They just have to feed him stuff and chump block him forever, just like in Age of Sigmar.
Yep. I love that you can't, red has infinite number of tricks to make your creatures hasty when they come out, right? And he shows up and he's like, well, I hope there was an Amulet of Vigor around or something, because otherwise I'm just sitting here for a turn.
I mean, you can play a Fervor or whatever, but he still enters tapped.
Right.
So unless you can untap him, which you could, there are ways.
That's fantastic. Tom, what's your take on Gotrek?
I love it. Like, it feels so right, just with how slow he is. It's so delightfully, like, perfect and messy and unfortunate. The only thing that I would be concerned about is that he, preventing all but 1 damage, like death touch still takes him out.
Yep.
And I wonder if that's problematic, right? Because like
ignoring his ward kills him.
Always...
Okay, I suppose it's maybe a little unfair of me to always point to AOS because sometimes just because it makes sense doesn't mean it's a good design idea. But yeah, I wanted him to be.
So yeah, it was just I don't know what the answer is, but
Mhm. He's still totally killable. You can cast a Wrath of God and he goes away. You can death touch him and he'll go away. You can cast a Farewell and exile all creatures and he'll go away.
Sure.
But generally, he's difficult to remove, and no trample because you are supposed to, like, as the way you play him, your opponents are supposed to. He's essentially removal. Every
Right.
turn he swings, and your opponent sacrifices a creature to him, essentially,
Right.
for effort. Just like what you're supposed to do in AOS. When someone has a Gotrek, you just feed him chaff forever because you can't stop him. But he's not going to trample over and kill somebody. Otherwise, the straight up double strike, he's doing 6 if you have nothing, right?
Right. Just
And so
standing alone, he's
if I
6
gave
damage.
him
Yeah.
if I give him trample, there's a concern that you just like blast this shroud creature that prevents all damage, just like kill someone right away. Maybe that's fine, I guess, but he is
yeah, you're
one
just
of the
gonna have
less
to rely
serious
on all
ones.
you're gonna have to rely on all creatures gaining trample
Yeah,
enchantments. In red for him.
Which exists as
there's
well.
like 1 or 2 maybe.
Yeah. Archetype of aggression comes to mind. That's a good
Yeah.
option. But there's more.
If you want to pay a whole lot of Chroma's Memorial,
There you go.
it gives him a lot more than trample.
He also needs
but-
to be an avatar dwarf.
Sure.
Oh yeah, and not even Duardin, a dwarf actually.
Mhm.
And it was all I could do not
Yeah,
to write
PC's
Gotrek's power and toughness are each equal to your devotion to Felix. But it wouldn't make much rule sense. But he's a less serious card anyway, so.
Sure. All right. Very good. Let's keep moving. All right. Flesh Eater Quartz. My guess is this art is one of the most recent additions to this particular presentation.
Yeah, we don't know this guy's rules yet, so I made him an amalgam of Flesh Eater Court themes and playstyle.
Sure. Usharan the Summer King. 2 colors, white, black, red. So once again, coming in Mardu, which I absolutely agree. That is correct. That is correct for Flesh Eater Quartz. 1,000% correct. Yes.
They're one of the most Mardu things ever.
Yes. Absolutely. All right, take us through this guy.
He is a 6/6 for 6, but double white. Flesh Eater King. He has first strike, life link. Yes, they stack. As long as Usharan is enchanted and equipped, other creatures you control get 1/1 and have lifelink. If you would gain life above your starting life total, instead create that many 1/1 white ghoul surf creature tokens with Frenzy 1.
Holy crap. I love this so much. Yes. Okay, first of all, Frenzy. That is a hell of a pickup. That's existed on
future
what?
site only, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's on 1 card? 2 cards?
I think a sliver has it, and maybe some other card.
Yes. So excellent pickup there. Like how fantastic. And I love the white ghoul surf creature tokens. Yes. Absolutely correct. Like that's what they are. I would have also bought white black.
Yeah.
Ghoul surf
I wanted to make a
tokens.
statement, and so I went only white. It's the only white ghouls ever.
Perfectly fine. I'm not hating on it. I think you could have gone either, and I would have said, "Yep, that's fine. I'm with that completely." You can see the build around with life gain into the go wide strategy with him, and suddenly you just have like a million bajillion little 2/2 life linking frenzy 1 morons. It's great.
Oh, for those at home that don't know about the single card in all of Magic that has Frenzy, it's a mechanic where if the creature attacks and is not blocked, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. That's what it does.
Yes.
And I wanted him to be, there is a bit of a smash bat, or there used to be an FEC, and so I brought a little bit of that in here with the enchanted and equipped, but also a kingly crown, a kingly rod. He's got enchantments all over. If he has the artifacts and equipments that a king deserves, then his people benefit. It trickles down, in other words.
Yeah, I would have also accepted. I mean, I don't know if it's really still a mechanic that works, but instead of frenzy, I would have also like frenzy as inverse rampage, effectively, right?
Yeah.
I would have also
It just
accepted
goes down
Rampage.
to 0.
Yeah. You know, like the more blockers, like Rampage 1 or something. You could have reached way back. I would have taken that too. They go crazier the more people that get in their way. Like either one sells to me, honestly. Like I could go either direction.
I thought, to me, it was I wanted like not a visual thing. I don't know how to describe it, but you're thinking about white ghoul, surf, frenzy, like all of these opposites clashing together. And
it's really nice. Yeah, the word is better. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
like,
it really
frenzy is a better word.
Both of them
than
mechanically
Rampage.
work. Frenzy sounds, because frenzied ghoul is I think it's a creature actually. Frenzied ghoul. I mean, scourge maybe, or onslaught. Anyway.
Okay. Tom, any thoughts on Usharan the Summer King? I mean, this guy's a hoss at 6 mana. Let me say that.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Like, I love the life gain go wide strategy. I love, like, the only thing I wonder is if there might have not have been a food summoning in here, like a food like sub theme in here. And I don't know what that looks like. Like, I'd have to do some workshopping, right? But I just wonder if
I could see turning opponents' guys
Yeah.
into food, because that's what they
Yeah.
imagine them, or something.
Yeah, like
that's
Shelob
exactly what I was
does.
going to say. Is
Consume
like,
them somehow, when you kill a creature,
Yes.
or when an opponent,
yeah,
you get the food and then you get to eat it, then something. It'd be a lot of
and that's what I
tact-
was going to say is them imagining the opponents for food,
Yeah,
and then that having and then being able to like destroy food on attack or something. Like, I could imagine, and maybe this is like a wider like an enchantment, right? The grand banquet or something like that. It's a delusion enchantment.
well, you're in double
has an
white
effect
already,
on,
so you could
Yeah.
make a Wrath of God that destroys all creatures and gives everybody food tokens equal to the number of creatures destroyed.
Sure.
Like, how fun would that be?
It's the Battle of Bywater. It exists. It's a Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings card.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you could just do that. But I would say, if you wanted to add the extra text to him, like, again, you don't need to. He's perfectly fine. He's perfectly powerful. You'd have to up his cost if you had another ability.
He's pushing it.
Yeah, he's already pushing it. But like, if we were going to make him even more outrageously expensive, the way you'd staple that on, or the support enchantment for him, or whatever the other thing would be, it would be like, if one or more creatures die in the combat, like during combat, create a food token, and that would just be it, right? Like, this ability triggers once per turn or something like that. Like the exact wording, I'm not writing the exact card, but you get it, right? So every combat, you'd theoretically be creating a food token, right?
Or it's something like, at the end of each turn, Usharan targets a creature, and that creature becomes a food in addition to its other types, and then your ghouls get bonuses against that guy.
Sure. Yeah, it's lots of fun.
And your
ways
opponent
you
can
could go this.
sacrifice that guy because he's a food now and gains life from it, or something like that. Like a way to put a bullseye on something, maybe.
Two things. One, Vince, I love the idea. So if you're generating food tokens when other creatures die, one, I can already imagine what that token looks like the horror feast that is that
Sure,
token.
of course. First of all, it should be a double-sided
but
token.
then as well,
hold on. It's a double-sided token,
Okay.
but both sides of the token are food. The front side is a noble, luxurious feast. Banquet, and then the back side of the card is like, has visual signifiers that it's clearly the same table, but it's just a charnel feast of ripped apart bodies and rib cages and stuff like that. Yes.
And on each one, the
reason why
will be the opposite. So it'll be lords and ladies feasting on the entrails, and it'll be ghouls feasting on the banquet.
Yeah. Okay. Now go ahead, Tom.
Yeah. And then the flip side of that is, and the reason why this also works, is that if you're generating food by their dying creatures, you burn that food, and because of his ability, you gain life and generate more ghouls, right?
Exactly.
So that's the thing that, like, it just,
the circle of life.
Yeah.
Literally.
Indeed.
Like, and that's why I think the only thing is, like I said, I would restrict it to the combat step, not like anytime they died. I'd basically do it
so that you're doing it, not that some random thing is happening over here.
Yeah. You're not throwing out a go for the throat or a terror or whatever to make food. It has to be they die in combat and you can eat them. If they die over there
but the
and
key
you're not
is
in
that
the
you don't-
area,
it
they're
doesn't
not
have to be
food.
your combat though.
No.
But what I'm saying
your
is,
combat.
it doesn't have to be your combat. Like if
Agreed.
if
That's why I
an
just said in
opponent
the
attacks
combat
another
step.
opponent and
Yeah.
somebody has a dead creature, right? They're all generating bodies for you to eat.
Correct. Yes. Yes, I agree with that. That's why I said if a creature dies in the combat step,
Yeah.
you create a food token. Like that's why it would be one or more. It'd be like a check at the end, and it'd make like one food. So it'd have the potential. If everybody's swinging and everybody's dying, so on all 4 turns around, you could make like 4 food, right? On one swing around the table, one journey around. Okay, cool. And yes, Dylan, absolutely. Shelob does something similar. Yep, opponents. It's more potent because you actually get a copy of their creature, except it's a food token, which means that like their ETB effects and stuff like that trigger. This would just be like generating food, which is way weaker, but still good. Okay. Night Haunt with Lady Olinder. 1 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 black, more commonly known as Esper. Esper, my favorite color combination. It was the original one of the original tricolor combinations. Gave us the first colored artifact creatures. Some of the first were in that time period there, and it introduced a bunch of sphinxes that were in this color combination that are like still some of my favorite creatures to this day. White, blue, and black, everywhere I want to be, doing everything I want to do. Counter spells, kill things, win. It's great. Okay, take us through Lady Olinder.
All right, Lady Olinder is a 4/3 for 4 with flying and ward 2. Ward is a mechanic that they started printing on cards for basically hexproof except more fair. So you got to pay whatever cost it is after ward, and then you can target the creature. Otherwise, you could not target it. Spirits you control have vigilance. Tap an untapped spirit you control. Choose 1. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. +1/+1 until end of turn. Target player loses a life. Target player gains a life.
Yes.
And Lady Olinder was the most difficult card to decide on color identity for Night Haunt, at least for me. I kept thinking that there's a hint of red in there somewhere with their rules on the table and like deep striking, double strike, charging stuff. But I settled on Esper.
Okay.
And pretty much Spirit Tribal. You can layer your opponent up with 1,000,000 debuffs, just like they do on the table when they charge in. Slightly buff guys, slightly nerf guys. Your people have vigilance, which essentially doubles your damage if you wanted to, with target player loses a life when you tap them. Spirits are actually like a really good tribe. They have a great deal of great lords and tons of ways to go wide with the 1/1 spirits as well. And on her text box, the order of options on her card is different than normal in that each dual option starts with the -1 rather than the +1. And that's like a little subtle nod to her lore. Generally in lists, if you're going to do like choose loses, choose gains, the good one is always first and the negative one is always second. But her lore is actually completely brutal. Like she feels the emotional pain of everyone on the whole planet at all times and stuff. It's pretty metal, actually.
Here's my question. Should this be just a tap effect? Okay, because right now it's just like she is basically granting the static ability to all of the other spirits, right? That says they can tap to do this thing, right? Or should this be a triggered ability that says when a spirit you control becomes tapped, choose 1, right? Because part of what you're trying to represent here,
or a controlling thing.
Yeah, because like there are plenty of other ways you can tap your own creatures, right? Like you could have other tap outlets if that's what you're really going for.
Well, you are giving them all vigilance, though.
That's true. So they're not getting it in the red zone. Maybe spirits you control have vigilance isn't the right answer, because it feels like what you're trying to represent is they go into the red zone to attack. Like when their ability is a charge-based ability. Like they charge something and it causes those debuffs.
Yeah,
right?
and then she's got all these strings and she's doing stuff and being a control deck kinda and debuffing all sorts of things when her minions are going off into fighting.
So it feels like maybe what like I'm trying to think of like what she does. She like the spirit tribal maybe could be represented just by whenever a spirit you control becomes tapped, choose one. And then instead of her granting all spirits vigilance, maybe she doesn't need to do that because like whatever. She doesn't
It's
actually
tied to having the other thing. Yeah.
right. Like, but now we now that we're just doing it on attack. So like when you turn your guy sideways, then you're gonna stack the debuffs just like in normal AOS, right?
Or maybe you play mind over matter now, and you're
sure opposition, whatever. Yeah, that's right. And so Lady O doesn't actually buff the rest of her army very much at all, right?
She doesn't do much of anything. As a matter of fact,
she has her like
in the game, or
that's fine.
Or in the lore, she has the pulse mortal wound thing. She has the AoE mortal wound.
She has her
thing.
like lifting the veil, which feels like the thing that needs to be somehow represented here. That feels like the big missing component to me. Because if we moved the other ability to a just on tap, it would align better with the lore and function of the army. And then if her main ability was like lifting the veil, right? And what does she do? She doesn't have to attack to do it. It's a shooting phase thing technically or whatever. Like she's doing it somewhere around there, right? So maybe it's just an activated mana ability or something like that. It's no, it might just be like, I don't know if it's necessarily a tap. Maybe it's an activated ability of some kind. Maybe it just costs mana and then activates. Maybe it's a mana tap ability, right? But it's like she deals damage equal to her power to another creature or planeswalker or something like that, right? Maybe
that would
that's
pull a little more of that red that I was feeling as well in.
Sure.
Because the tap, pinging. Actually, no, that's blue too. It started out Prodigal Sorcerer.
It could always be
red after that, but still.
If we wanted to get it really strong, it could just be like, okay, here's the really strong version. I got it.
Fuselage,
2 colorless, 1 white, 1 black. Tap. Okay. Destroy target non-legendary creature. Lifting the veil. They see it.
Okay.
That's how you limit it. You limit it with non-legendary. Right?
Marie Griebery was in this color set, and she would tap, take control when she untaps, destroy.
Right. Yeah. Sure. And so to me, that's her lifting the veil. Like normal things, normal non-heroes, which is what we're going to use to stand in here for legendary, right? When they get like 2d6 mortal wounded, they're just dead, right? If she lifts the veil on them, they're just dead. And that's like 4 mana is plenty reasonable for her to be popping non-legendary things. Like that actually might be quite conservative, as a matter of fact, right? So something like that, I think would be a better.
There's some legend from Kamigawa or something that's like double black and does that. It's like creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. I can't remember the creature's name.
You're talking about Kiku, the Knight's
Kiku
Flower.
Knight's Flower. That's
yes, one of my favorite assassins. I love her very much. I had a Mari the Killing Quill deck that she featured in, putting hit counters on people. At any rate, yes. So like something like that, I think would be some amount of mana, tap her. Then it's clearly limited. Like it's not that you couldn't build around it and untap her, or blah blah blah. But when it's both tap and a mana thing, it becomes harder to go sideways broken, where she's just like kill everything on the board, right?
And she actually synergizes with herself. Oh wait, no, because never mind. If we did it on attack, never mind. I was saying
no, it's not on attack. No, it's not on attack. It's whenever a spirit you control becomes tapped. So yes, she would also get to hand out the penalty still.
So then she would still trigger her own ability. Which would be an interesting kind of play.
Which is good, similar sort of synergy, right? Yeah. So, yeah, to me that feels like the Lady O because there you go. That's my take.
And Vona is just a tap effect.
She has the pay 7 life on the backside.
It's like a 7 mana tap.
No, it's tap, pay 7 life. That's her. That's her throttler on ways to just make you go across the board.
Yeah. Lady O was a struggle. I didn't see a lot of identity in her in AOS to pull from, and so I'm like, well, I'll make it a spirit tribal, I guess.
And I think if you have whenever a spirit you control becomes tapped, it's still clearly spirit tribal. Like you're gonna pack your deck so that way when you go into the red zone, one of their defenders just drops dead. right? Or you just ace the player at 5 and keep going at the person you're actually attacking, right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good stuff. All right, next up, Ossiarch Bone Reapers. Orpheon Catacros. I love that you used his real first name.
Thanks Wikipedia. I found his real last name, and we're using the full thing like a parrot.
All right, take me through him.
It's a cool name.
Oh, he's 2 colors, 2 white, 2 black. A color combination most frequently known as Orzhov.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is a 5/6 for 6 with first strike, vigilance, and lifelink. When Catacros enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. Each opponent who can't discards a card at random.
Pay the tithe.
You got to pay the tithe, and if you can't pay, he'll take something, and you no longer get to choose when he's taking something. Boast. 3. Until end of turn, attacking creatures you control get 1/1. Creatures defending players control get -1/-1. Once again, Boast is when he attacks, you can use it once. Boast is actually pretty fitting here because he's like the second most arrogant creature in the mortal realms.
Sure.
Well, maybe 4th.
There's a lot of people vying for that title, but yes, he's got he's pretty proud of himself. Yes. May I throw a thought at you here?
Sure.
When he enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. Perfection, change nothing. You're perfect, and I want you to know this always. Okay, that is exactly the tithe. Each opponent who can't discards a card at random. So the punishment for the tithe. It's harsh, but I think the answer should be destroy. Like, must sacrifice a land, because if you didn't pay the tithe, your city got raised and he took your territory, right?
True, yeah.
And if you make it sacrifice a land, that's not as bad as destroy target land or something like that. Like, you're not making the choice. They'll sacrifice their least valuable land. You know, you're not popping their tri-land or something that's feeding it. They'll be.
I like him choosing. He's the military genius. He's choosing the land to take.
It could be. I'm okay with it either way.
Token creatures. What are you doing?
Punishing. He's punishing.
He's punishing.
Yeah, he's punishing them for their
your Cabal coffers. Your Gaia's Cradle. Your Sarah's Sanctum.
It's out of here.
The graveyard it goes.
Yeah. So I mean, I would be okay with either one, but yeah, like, that feels really appropriate to me as the backside of, you fail to pay the tithe, he takes your lands. That's what happens. Your city's raised, and this land is his now, right? And then the boast ability's right on. That's perfect for his like bonus.
Strong.
Go ahead.
It may be too strong. I'm going to open with this, but should it be when he enters? Are they only paying the tithe when he enters, or should it be when he enters or attacks?
It was once when he enters or attacks, and in the 3rd revision we dialed him back.
Yeah, I think enters is correct. Like, look, there's plenty of white of blink effects. If you want to go that direction,
we're in white, so this guy's going to get ephemeраted so fast your head would spin.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's gonna be a teleportation circle. Got it.
There's a teleportation circle. Someone's slipping on the ring. Ephemerations are happening. He's getting cloud shifted. Like, we can keep going.
You got Ghost Way. There's a conjurer's closet out there that
he pulled some Lae'zel's acrobatics. Yep. Let's just see exactly. Yes. So absolutely. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, had joined up with Orpheon, but I feel like he'd be showing up in a lot of Catacros decks.
I actually like.
You'd have mommy and daddy.
Mm-hmm.
I like two different Elish Norns in a deck like this. I like the OG, as a matter of fact. She works well with the my guys get big, your guys die theme, and then I like the doubling triggers one as well.
Yes. Elecman said, no blue for Catacros. He's an intelligent commander. Both he and his army are all about controlling the battlefield through superior tactics. I mean, that's a very white color identity. Like, and so, like, you'll see that a lot in Orzhov. It's not as though blue has, like, the owns being smart, right? Like, generally great tacticians are in, like, sort of a white color identity, not blue. So, like, Muriel, Shield of a Grave, and, or Argive, sorry, pronounced that wrong. And,
it's Gave.
Yeah, exactly. Of Agave. Um,
That's fun.
Adeline, Resplendent Cathar, like these are all like tactical people
Yeah.
who lead forces and stuff like that. Very, very similar in color identity, and they're all sort of in that space. So
Yeah, in Magic, military geniuses are commonly white, and blue doesn't have a monopoly on being smart. Just as green doesn't have a monopoly on summoning creatures. There's a lot of different ways to be smart. But I mean, I take your point. He is an intelligent commander.
tactical genius, one might say. Okay.
Yeah, like the
Though
man.
he has yet to super display that in the lore, although yeah, it's okay.
I mean, it took Archeon himself to push him back. Yeah, fair enough. You get pushed back by the main guy. You know?
Yep. This guy like wants
only
to be
question- my
Dr.
only other
Doom, but
question-
he's just not. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah.
I appreciate Orpheon for the name. I just wonder if the better name for these isn't Catacross, Mortarch of whatever, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
I couldn't fit that
like,
on all of them.
With all of these,
Yeah,
like
a
Lady
description
Olander
plus
or
Mortarch
Olander,
just didn't fit on.
Mortarch or-
Sorry for talking over you.
No,
for a
I
second
agree.
there,
Like the only reason why I bring that up is it allows you to do variant cards, right? Like because once you do your naming that scheme, you could have a second version of the card in a later set that that could be their full names.
Sure.
but
All right, let's keep moving. Soulblight Gravelords. Manfred von Karstein. 3 colorless, 1 white, 2 black for a 5/4. So again, we're still in Orzhov. All right, take us through this bad boy.
he has flying first strike lifelink, 5/4 for 6. When he enters the battlefield, other creatures you control get 1/1 until end of turn. When he leaves the battlefield, target opponent discards a card. Whenever Manfred deals combat damage, you may exile him. When you do, return him to the battlefield under your control. And also, by the way, he has first strike, so he eats out of combat, just kind of like how he does in AoS, or
Sure.
buffs his team for the same way. I have a note about him. He's tricky. He used to drain everybody on a Leafs play trigger, but I changed it to discard because he's a son of a bitch. I used to make each opponent discard, but it was just a bit too strong with Blink, and I wanted the player to choose an opponent and create adversaries
Yep.
with a guy like
Make
this.
an enemy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Manfred makes enemies. Yes. No, I like this. The only note I'd have on him is I'd have him return to the battlefield at the end of turn. At the beginning of the next end step.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I know in the game he like does kind of, you do remove him and reset him up, but have that represent the fact that he's removed himself to some degree from the current fight that's going on, right? So like, in other words, he's not present in that combat phase. It would also just clear up, like then new players wouldn't get confused, like, wait, is he still fighting?
Is this a new thing? Yeah.
Like, does the enemy still hurt him? You know, that kind of stuff. Like if he's just exiled for the rest of that time, then it's a lot smoother interaction.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really affect your his utility in any way. So okay, go ahead, Tom.
The only thing that I would change is that, and I think it's a legitimate miss. Sorry, man. Is I love you, but it shouldn't be double black. It should be black, red, white. It should be Mardu. And it's not just because vampires in the Mardus spread, but because there is no more perfect picture of impulsive than someone who goes away the existence of an entire world because he's angry.
That's true. Manfred did throw away all of reality because of an impulsive decision. Like, yeah, he might need that Mardu.
Like he is the definition of, yeah. Like just because he is unreliable, right? As at the heart of who he is. Like that's the whole point of it. Is like he is the picture of unreliability because of his scheming, but as well because of his impulsiveness. Like of all the Mortarchs, he is the most impulsive of them.
Yeah. And I would say they all have their impulsivity. Like that's I think why vampires moved from like mono black into black red a lot, is because that they do have this like this sort of like impulsive nature.
Yeah, the need to feed.
Driven. Yeah. Jen S says combat damage.
So,
here
but other than
damage
that
creature.
critique.
Yes, Jen, it does. Go ahead.
other than that critique, I love it. I think it is spot on. And I think even if you swap out a black for a red there, I think it still reads like, I think that it's still in the right color pie there.
Yeah.
For what he's doing.
Absolutely. Yeah,
the intent is that combat damage does include combat damage to a creature. So if he blocks or becomes blocked, he gets that first strike in, peace out, and kind of he's a combat trick he's an annoying combat trick on a stick that specifically makes certain players hate you by targeting them over and over with the discard effect.
Love it.
Some gamesmanship.
Absolutely. And then Death. Nagash. Lord of the Undead. 5 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 black. So again, here we are in Esper. And for a 5/6. Okay. Go for it. Take me through it.
All right, 5/6 for 8. Flying, Fear, Undying.
Sure.
Fear has been upgraded to Intimidate, I think now, which works for any color, but Fear is you can only block it with black creatures or artifact creatures.
Right.
Undying is if it dies and it doesn't have a Undying counter on it, you return it to the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. And so one time it can come back to life is what Undying does. It's the slightly stronger version of Persist from Shadowmoor, which gave a -1/-1 counter, but they both check for counters. When he enters the battlefield or attacks, flip a coin. If you win the flip, destroy target creature you don't control. If you lose the flip, remove all counters from Nagash. When a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller may pay life equal to its mana value. If they don't, put it into the battlefield under your control tapped.
Beautiful.
Yep. It feels right.
My notes. Some people don't like coin flipping. Sorry. But that's what Hand of Dust is. It just is. Yep. And at least you get something cool on heads or tails. Yep. This idea doesn't so much work for Magic. The players just think differently than AoS players. Dare I say more optimally. But in Age of Sigmar, as a slight note, I'd like to see more effects like this. If something has to be full random, especially if it's once a game, it should always at least do something. Maybe vary in degrees of success.
Anyway. Yes, the entire Destruction faction is calling and asking for that to happen. Yeah. So it's not just on a 4-up, your army works. On a 1-3, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Completely fair.
I wonder.
So the combo with this guy is, he costs 8. That's insane for a non-green color. But with Undying, every time you lose the flip, he loses a counter and becomes invulnerable again. So you can reanimate again every time. And every time you win the flip, you destroy a creature. And then if your opponent doesn't want to pay life equal to its mana value, you get to reanimate that thing, whatever it was, tapped.
Yep. I like this guy a lot. I think you could have gone into I think the other option if you were going to start over, which I'm not saying you should. I think this is perfectly great. I think this is actually really elegant design. But if you wanted to represent him as being this huge monstrosity, since he's the most expensive guy in the game, right? The most expensive model in the game. Would be you could make him you could go a Ghalta Primal Hunger type way or somebody like that,
or give him Convoke or something. So
exactly, where it's Convoke. He could have Convoke, but only zombies and skeletons can convoke him, or wizards. He X less if you control other death wizards or something like that, right? I could imagine various avenues you could go down where it's because Archon was loyal and there's other death wizards out, he can then show up more cheaply than the 16 mana for his 9/9 self or something, you'd normally have him for or whatever. But I have no issue with this design. I think this is perfectly good.
So the only along those lines, I would love to do maybe make him 9 mana instead of 8. To reflect the 9 books of Nagash.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
And then make him an 8/8 or something like that. In general, he's not because of fear, you kind of want him to be a beater. but at 8 for a 5/6, it's just not. It's not delivering as much.
Oh yes, it has flipped over to my birthday. That is true. Where it's past midnight Eastern time now. That
Oh,
is fun.
congratulations!
Thank you. My wife just
You
jumped in the chat
survived.
to remind me. Yeah, I'm here again. We got there.
Is your birthday tomorrow, or is the
Right
the
now, it just
23rd?
Yeah.
I
It's my
didn't realize
birthday
that.
present.
Happy
That's
birthday!
also
Here's
my
a
wife.
PowerPoint about Magic.
Yeah, exactly. This is the best birthday present I've gotten in a while, man. This is great. Okay, let's keep moving. We do have many to go, and I don't want to.
There's a lot.
Exactly. We're gonna end up with a Tyler show here. All right.
Apologies.
No, you're good. Okay. Beasts of Chaos, Gorthor the Returned. 2 colors, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green for a 4/4. And once again, we're in Jund colors, which again feels very apropos for Beasts of Chaos. All right, hit me.
Also, once again, like Fire Slayers, thanks Wikipedia for finding a named Beast of Chaos guy. He's a 4/4 for 5 with Flash and Battle Cry. Flash for ambush, Battle Cry for, we'll say, rend. You may cast creature spells from your hand as though they had Flash. Sacrifice another creature, add X mana of any combination of that creature's colors, where X is that creature's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells past 3 from your hand.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I like
It was simply too easy to go infinite until I put that from your hand in there, Eternal Scourge a million times or whatever, and so we're reining it in.
Yep.
It's not quite survival the fittest. Or wait, not
Okay.
survival. What's the well, regardless.
Food chain. Were you going food chain?
Yeah, food chain, that was it.
There you go. Okay. Tom, any
Feels
thoughts
right.
on Gorthor?
It feels right. It has a sacrificial element to it. It has the beastmen start showing up from everywhere feel to it. I think Jund is the right color set for that. So, yep.
It's funny because if this was a real commander, if this product existed, this would be like the face commander, and the alternate commander would like have Devour as a mechanic, and it would be the monster guy, right?
Yeah.
Like that, like all your creatures of mana value 5 or greater have Devour 2 or something like that. That would be the alternative commander, right? It would be the dude who cares about like Gorgons and Cygors and Chimeras and stuff like that. You can just see the deck build out in your head, right? Like face commander, alternate commander. There we go. Beautiful, wonderful, love it. Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Blades of Corn. Corgus Cull, Terry Tate office linebacker himself, coming in from 8 inches away from downtown. He is 1 colorless, 1 black, 3 red, for a 4/4. So he is a. We haven't gotten to this combination yet. This is most commonly known as Rakdos. Okay, cool. Tell us about Corgus Cull.
This is Corgus Cool. He is porn player fan fiction. All right.
Sure.
He's a 4/4 for 5 triple red with first strike, can't be countered. Whenever Corgus Cool deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. Reality Splitting Axe.
Reality Splitting Axe, yep.
And whenever an opponent casts a spell during your turn, he deals 8 damage to that player.
Yes.
Get out of here.
Get out of here with this. Absolutely. The Hex Scourger Skull's coming in.
Yeah.
This is good. This is really good. Yeah. I mean, first strike combined with that, obviously, exile effect is very scary. He just reality splits somebody before they kill him, right?
No 5-ups in Magic. Just happens.
Just happens. Well, obviously, there are things that counter triggered abilities.
I could make it worse and less fun if I wanted to, yeah.
Sure. He can't be countered, but his triggered abilities can.
Sure. Nimble Obstructionist coming in.
Absolutely.
And hot.
These things exist. But nonetheless, and I love my favorite text is that whenever an opponent casts a spell during your turn, Corgus Cull deals 8 damage to that player. Perfect. Like, literally perfect. Yes.
Yeah, in Constructed, you couldn't swing that. In a 40-life format, it's fine.
Yeah. 100%. Absolutely. Again, this guy, he can't be countered, but he can just be like you know, he can be swords off, pathed
Just
off,
kill him,
etc.,
yeah.
etc. Yeah,
Well,
just kill him.
It's completely avoidable. Just don't cast spells in your turn.
Yeah, easy. Just don't
Right.
cast spells in my turn. You'll never take the 8.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, I
Right.
get my turn, you get your turn. We play on our own turns, and nobody takes 8. Nobody's.
I mean, I got
cookie.
3 players' turns I could be casting spells during. I can just not do it during
Yeah,
yours. That's cool.
It's not
It's
this
cool,
guy's.
man.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, love him. He's great. Okay. Oh, we got a second Blades of Corn. Oh, we went too deep on the
I
Blades.
got a lot of mods that play Corn, right? So we,
Sure. Scarbrand, the exiled one. 3 colors, 1 black, 4 red. Woof. Okay. So an 8 mana, 8/4. All right. Oh, I just read the first line and I love it already. Okay, take me through it.
yeah, he has affinity for blood tokens, which doesn't take too much off, right? It's only 3 cheaper.
Sure.
But this is the kind of commander you're going to have to cast a lot. Due to the other players.
Sure.
Reading the card. Affinity for blood tokens. Death touch, double strike, trample.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Keeping in mind that the way that death touch interacts with trample is that you deal 1 damage and that is enough to kill it, and everything else tramples through.
Yep.
And that's in the first strike damage phase. And then there is a normal damage phase. This guy is a commander who swings for 16.
This is a combination of the worst 3 rules to pair together in Magic for complexity. I had to spend this situation happened, and I was like, I have no idea how Death Touch, Double Strike, and Trample start interacting with each other. I had to go read like the core rules sections to like piece this together to figure it out. Like I know it works now, but this is a complicated interaction. But okay, go ahead.
Well, Corn players, despite what they may look like, their armies are actually pretty tactical. Scarbrand attacks each turn of Fable because of course. Whenever a creature dies, create a blood token.
Yep.
Because you'll need them, because Scarbrand will be removed over and over and over. When a player loses the game, create 8 blood tokens, draw 8 cards, and untap Scarbrand. If it's your turn, there's an additional combat phase after this one.
Amazing. Yes.
Why do you draw cards and make blood tokens if you weren't responsible for that player dying? Well, the answer is obvious, because Corn cares not from whence the blood flows.
100% accurate. Yes, the blood tithe. It's there. Yeah, it's a blood point. Like it happens. Doesn't care. It doesn't matter who dies where for what reason. Skulls for the Skull Throne, and I love legendaries who have when a player loses the game triggers. There's not many of these out there, but there is a few already in Magic. Yeah. And they're really fun. Like, what a fun reward. So yes, create 8 blood tokens, draw 8 cards, and untap him. Yeah, it's great. This dude is coming in hot. Yeah, he's gonna catch removal real hard, real fast. But God help the table if he doesn't.
Like you do nothing, and he swings for 16 commander damage.
Right.
That's the concern. But this is the cool part about Commander is you reveal your commander at the beginning. So everybody from T = 0, they know that guy has a Teclis. And someday he's going to try to cast it.
Yep. Jeremy said, just popping in, to what extent are these designs a meme? I mean, not a lot, but also not zero. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a little bit of memery in here.
Sure. Like
Especially some of them.
I mean, if you look at the Doctor Who cards, there's memery in there. Right?
Sure.
I mean, that is absolutely some of what's happening. Frankly, same with some of the Lord of the Rings cards, or same with the Warhammer 40k cards and stuff like that.
Real quick, I'm gonna get a drink.
You go for it. I'll keep going. Because I think there's just like some level of memery that's appropriate. But I think in general, we're trying to make Halo is trying to make like, a real shot at this. Like, what would the real thing actually feel like? They're not pushed, but they're expensive commanders, and so they're strong to befit that, right? Like most people will look at any commander with more, as he said at the beginning, that's more than 4 mana and be like, oh, it's too much, it's too slow, I hate fun, that kind of thing. So like when you put this guy out, this 8 mana monstrosity, he better be doing something. When you're more expensive than an Elder Dragon, right? So yeah, exactly. So there you go.
I mean, I think that's the intent, though, right? Like the intent itself is that it will that that these will be worth their cost for when you put them on the table.
Yeah, they're meant to be
Right?
big
Like when
finishers,
these hit
big
the
come
table,
down.
you will feel them.
Yeah, and they have to sum up so much about the army and about the faction that they kind of need to be expensive to represent that. So I think that's why. The idea here would be, I think, everybody at your table plays their favorite AoS commander, right? So we're all playing relatively expensive, high impact commanders. So I think that's kind of the idea, right? No, fair, totally fair, Jeremy. I get it. You're totally right. I mean, in general, I don't run a lot of like 8 mana commanders, right? I mean, it's that being said, I did have a Tariel deck, and she's like 7, and I loved her. So who cares? Mana Vault for the win. Get out of here. All right. So at any rate, let's keep going.
All right.
Kairos Fate Weaver. So first of all, we basically already know you're in the correct color combination here, because
there wasn't much choice.
Well, this guy is like Kairos himself doesn't have a card in 40k. The Lord of Change does, and he's mono blue.
Yeah.
But the Ruinous Powers, writ large, right, and especially like those kinds of characters, are Grixis. Blue, black, red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most self-indulgent possible color combination.
Right.
And that's kind of what they represent.
Yeah. Let me just speak for Tom here. Blue, black, red, Grixis, powerful, wonderful color combination. Tom's favorite color combination. It's everywhere he wants to be. It's destruction and death and control, and every way Tom likes to play like a jerk. So he loves Grixis.
Yeah, it's basically like the fun ruiner color set.
Right. Yes. Absolutely.
Like everything that is going to be a terrible play experience.
Let's just shove it all here. Yes. Okay. So take us through Kairos Fate Weaver.
All right, he is a 5/5 for 6 Tzeentch Demon with flying, ward, 2, colorless. He's tricky. It's hard to get through his ward. You have to spend specifically colorless mana, not generic, to get past that ward.
Tap that soul ring. You gotta tap that soul ring.
You better have the soul ring.
I mean, everybody plays a soul ring, so I felt it was fair just because of that.
100%.
It's not like you're never going to be able to do that. But some, they might find it hard. Kairos enters the battlefield with 9 fate counters on it if you cast it. All right? No cheating. Remove a fate counter from Kairos. Scry 1, then exile the top card of each player's library. Each opponent plays with the top card of their library revealed. And so you can see the future. You know they're going to draw the card that wrecks you next turn. You can just you can just exile it. It's gone because of your plan. Your library, nobody knows, but you can scry 1 before you use the ability. Ooh, I want to keep that. I, put it on the bottom. You can randomly still screw yourself, and after you scry and exile something that you actually wanted, because that's Kairos Fate Weaver's entire backstory. Is
right.
Yeah, he's controlling. You can see the future. You can see the past, but right now, it loses everything. And so I wanted you to feel very controlling, seeing the future, but you can randomly screw yourself anyway.
Yeah, like the more potent version of it would be scry 2 and then do that, right? So you could actually look at the next card. But that's not Kairos. All of his plans always get screwed up. So I'm scrying 1 and being like, okay, let me save that one. That's not getting exiled. And then it's like, oh no, the next one was worse. That's very Kairos.
Oh, my Thassa's Oracle. God, no.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No, I got to pull from Eternity on it or something. Oh, you're not in white, but still.
Tom, any thoughts on Disciples of Tzeentch and Kairos Fate Weaver?
It's delightful.
Yeah.
It's delightful. It's exactly what I would expect out of Kairos.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Potentially, there's a card or two you could play in these colors that lets you do stuff with those exiled cards, but you're going to have to put it into your spellbook on your own.
Which is totally fair. All right.
Let's see. To say about Kairos? Nope. No notes.
All right. Hedonites of Slaanesh, also in the Ruinous Powers color scheme. He is, we are to Glutos or Scallion, however you pronounce his last name. 4 colors. Yes.
What everyone calls him.
Yep. This would be AoS Guff, Andrew. 100% AoS Guff. Absolutely here. Though I mean, some of these. characters
Once
are from
again, is
the old
up.
world as well.
Oh, sorry about that.
You're good. You're good. All right. So yes, 7-drop, 4/5. All right, take me through it.
Yep, and sorry, way too much text. I'm sorry, but I don't care shows up, but it is the god of excess. And actually, in my notes, I'm like, fill up the text box on the slash thing
Sure.
on purpose for the Mel, anyway, the Mel enjoyers. He's the Lord of Gluttony. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the most life, Glutos gains lifelink. If you have the most cards in hand, draw 2 cards. If you have the most creatures, create 2 2/2 black Daemonette creature tokens with first strike. If you have the most lands, search your library for 2 basic lands, put them on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. And if you satisfy all of the above, you may cast spells from your hand without paying their mana costs until your next turn. I apologize. I had to truncate some of this text like OTB instead of onto the battlefield. There just wasn't enough room. I've seen Magic cards with way more text than this in real life. It was the website, I swear.
Yeah. They have a special font that they use that is one size smaller than their approved font for when they need to super jam text. Like I read the Magic card making standards for reasons recently when I was looking into what font sizes they allow. They have like this emergency font when they have to get the words on there.
Yeah.
At any rate, I love everything about this design because it only rewards you for excess when you already have the most stuff.
That's when it's putting to help you get there.
Yes.
You're on your own. No. And if you're tied, no. You have to have the most.
It's delightful. Delightfully excessive.
I love it so much. Yeah, this is maybe a perfect card, as would befit Slaanesh. Like, I have no notes on this. It is exactly correct. Exactly correct. You want to go excessive, and then it rewards you for being excessively excessive. Mm-hmm. Yes. It's great. It's great.
Also,
A+.
4 + 5 is 9. I guess I felt like I had to sneak 9 into there somewhere, so he's a 4/5, 4 + 5. Technicality. Also, there's a little rules thing here. So the last line used to say, as long as all are true.
Sure.
You may cast spells from your hand without paying the mana cost until your next turn. What's the problem with that?
They would, like, somebody would just remove the one thing or change the one thing. Like, interact with you in some way?
Well, not necessarily someone. So you have the most cards in hand by 1.
Oh, sure.
And
you cast a spell and then immediately
for free.
Yeah, you'd lose.
And now it's on the stack. And now after it's on the stack, it comes to paying the costs, and you no longer have the most cards in hand.
Yep. And now it will actually require you to pay for it.
And now you have to pay,
And that's like a really weird interaction because people don't realize you put the spell onto the stack before you actually determine the cost you pay.
And we just have to sidestep that whole hornet's nest. So
right. Yep.
I made it conditional like the rest of the stuff, and it's probably better this way anyway, even forgetting about the extra stuff.
Very nice. And yes, I absolutely. Lekman says, I also like how it mimics the 5 battle round meal courses that Glutos has going on because you have 5 distinct abilities. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's random. I didn't do that one on purpose. I put a lot of stuff in here that's real subtle on purpose, but the 5 meal courses thing was purely by accident. I used to have artifacts enchantments on the list, but they wouldn't fit in the text box.
Yeah, sure.
So
sure.
It gave you treasure tokens or something, I think.
Okay. Next up, Hedonites of Slaanesh. That's right, baby. We're not done yet. We couldn't escape him. Sigvald, Prince of Slaanesh. 2 colorless and Grixis, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red for a 5/4. What a perfect quote. The only equal I've ever seen was in a mirror. I don't know if that's his real quote or if you made that up, but that is perfect.
Made that up, yeah.
It's perfect.
Also, it's a little bit of a double entendre for a mirror match because if you clone him,
he was also trapped in a mirror for a long time.
Yeah, and he has a mirror shield as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Okay.
He has protection from non-Sigvald creatures. So if you clone him, he is powerless against himself. Once again, whenever a creature with greater power enters the battlefield, tap it. When you do, put 1/0 counters on Sigvald until his power is greater. If an opponent would lose the game, they must concede instead.
Holy crap! Which does that? I'll openly admit I've never looked into the rules on conceding versus losing. Is there actually any rules difference that occurs there?
Between losing a game and conceding,
Yeah.
the only relevant rules difference is when you are controlling another player, you can't concede for them. They wrote that when they printed
Yeah.
Mindslaver.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Okay. Makes sense.
It's pure flavor. Also, I have a little note here. A creature's toughness is colloquially referred to as its butt. So a 4/6, people say, has a big butt. Along those lines, the greater his foe, the more 1/0 counters he gets in anticipation. If you're wondering what exactly I'm implying, I'll tell you when you're older.
Very nice. Yeah. I love that we went back to +1/+0 counters. Yep, not +1/+1s.
No,
That
it
is
wasn't too hard.
No.
we're straight up Frankenstein's monster. Like, you know, the old school +1/+0 counters here. Yep, right on.
hmm
I guess that's technically +2/+0 counters, but get off my back. The point being an inequitable counter like that. Yeah, love it. I love the protection from non-Sigvald creatures. It's really good. It's really
You
good.
got a clone, you can actually get him, you know?
Yeah, sure.
And
sure.
when the greater creature comes out, it taps like it's genuflecting, it's bowing to him.
Yeah.
He forces it. Obviously,
love
one
it.
of the more silly commanders, but it's a Games Workshop IP. You got to put some silliness in there.
Well, I think I found my commander. All right, as I expected to. Here we go.
I love it so much.
Okay. All right. Next up, Maggotkin of Nurgle, Rodigus Rainfather, 3 colorless, 2 black, 2 green for a 4/10. Now that's a big butt.
Pulling from the lore a little bit on the toughness of this guy, more than in game, but
Sure.
he's
sure.
a Nurgle demon. He has lifelink, infect, and ward. Get a poison counter. Ward costs can be actually pretty crazy, like discard a creature card and stuff like this. So this
Oh,
is
hold on.
within
I
the
got to make a
wheelhouse.
joke that I missed earlier. Can I make my joke real quick?
Oh yeah, sure.
Black and green, commonly referred to as Golgari, or Witherbloom if you're nasty. Okay, there we go. Now I made my. I meant to make that with Silverquill earlier. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
Go for it. I feel good now. Continue.
At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 black and green Nurgling creature token with lifelink and infect. Whenever a creature an opponent controls blocks or becomes blocked, put a -1/-1 counter on it. Morbid, populate, proliferate. Okay, that's 3 straight up keywords. Let me explain myself. Morbid means at the end of each turn, if one or more creatures died during that turn, this is a yes or no question, do the thing. And so populate is choose a token you have, make another one. Proliferate, choose a counter on any number of stuff and increase the value by 1 if you wish for each of those. And so you're infecting, you're creating Nurglings, you're populating, you're giving people poison, and his stench and aura and ability on his war scroll, the Reign of Filth, means that people's weapons are coated in it. Any fighting at all is going to infect somebody, even if he's not necessarily part of it. A slow death, in other words. Which
Oh
is
yeah, this is brutal. That ward get a poison counter is brutal, especially with the morbid proliferate, because those are going up. Once you get the touch of Nurgle, it don't go away. That's it.
Doesn't wash off.
No, absolutely not. I hope you've got the players cannot gain counters cards in play, because otherwise you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Yeah, no, this is great. I think a lot of people are going to be willing to take that 1 poison counter to get this guy off the table. Let me say that.
Just get him out. Get him out.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of the other 3 players trying to kind of decide who has to be the one to get the poison counter, maybe.
Absolutely. No, this is great design.
I appreciate your decision. I appreciate your decision with the 7 mana commander to allow his like token generation ability to trigger every upkeep.
Yeah.
So something the equivalent of like like Coma or
Regal
was it
Force.
Bramble Sovereign?
Verdant Embrace.
Yeah,
Or I
exactly.
mean Verdant Force. Yeah.
Verdant Embrace, yeah, exactly. Those that are that are in that kind of 7 space. Belandris with Witherbloom. Like it's
Yeah.
like I appreciate that tweak. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's great. I love it. It's so good. It's so Nurgle. It's so all these little minor effects that are equaling up to death. Right? Yeah, it's great. Okay. Cool. Boop. Next up. Go to next slide. There we go. Okay, Skaven. Oh, we're excited about this. Lord Screech, Vermin King. 4 colors, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red. So we're still firmly in Grixis for a 5/5. All right, go for it.
All right, he has Cascade, which is when you cast this card, reveal cards top of your library until you get one that costs less. That's not a land. You can play that card for free. So cards are just spilling out of your library. You get 1 extra one. He has Rat Storm, which is when you cast the spell, create a 1/1 black rat creature token for each spell cast this turn, not necessarily just from you. And his activated ability is Dark Ritual mana, tap, sacrifice 13 rats. For each opponent, exile the top 13 cards of that player's library. That player loses life equal to the total mana value of cards exiled from their library this way. If a player's total is 0, you lose the game. If they got 10 lands, a Chrome Mox, a Mox Diamond on top, you just lose the game.
Amazing.
But what are the odds of that? You know? What are the odds?
It would never happen. I love everything about this guy so much. I love that you're trying to build him up. I love that you're trying to, create some ridiculous like all High Tide and Dark Ritual and Mana Geyser. So I'm just like generating a crap load of mana and storm counting off. Right. Also, there's probably a Burgie in play somewhere. Like I'm just trying to get a bunch of mana built up to start doing a bunch of spells, and then somewhere at the end of this, now that I've got a bunch of floating blue, black, and red, right? Out comes Lord Screech. He makes a ton of little black rats. Right. He cascades.
Immediately kills them.
Something else into play. And then if he can survive, he's got to survive the go round, right? I mean, assuming he doesn't have haste, right? He's got to survive the go round.
Losing red.
Yeah, so he could very well have haste, but without that, he's got to survive the turn. And then, boom, all those rats are just immediately getting killed
Doesn't
to
even
just
attack with them.
potentially backbreak the table. Again, it's like so telegraphed, right? But I love everything about it. Like it's eminently answerable, but so fun. Like this is the kind of commander I love because it's like, look, you know what I'm doing. You read this guy from the beginning, and then I cast this guy, you see it coming. If I get there, this is nobody's fault but all of you. You killed yourselves. You played yourselves, okay? I gave you all the warning in the world. All right.
So after some basic math, a tuned commander deck with a reasonable curve, emphasis reasonable, has an average mana value per card somewhere around 1.7, and will thus lose 22 life-ish on average. The average big mana dinosaur tribal deck will die. And the odds of hitting 13 like lands and mana crypts and mox diamonds and stuff like that and just getting all very, very low, but it will happen and it will be hilarious.
Absolutely. The one game you kill yourself is just going to be the funniest thing in the universe. Yes. I love this guy. This is so good. It's so good. Okay.
So here I have an advanced rules question here.
Would certainly run him.
What was that?
I would run this guy in a heartbeat. Yes, this would be a deck I'd build like instantly. Tomorrow I'd build this deck. Go ahead.
Now I wrote Rat Storm differently than Storm's normal text, even considering it makes rats instead of copies of a spell.
Sure.
What's different? Why did I do that? And was it correct to do so? And I have an example Storm card over here, Tendrils of Agony, with cool new art.
It is, yeah, I love this, the Strixhaven Mystic Archive version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously the trick when you're with Storm is that it's got to make copies, right? And then each of those gets slotted onto the stack above the original card. So like technically all of the last storm to resolve is or to be created is the first thing that actually resolves, right? Hence, like countering storm cards is really hard unless you have like a whirlwind denial or something like that, right? In this case, you're really not making a storm card, right? And it's not actually storm. You're just using it
It's
as
not
like,
actually making copies. It's one big triggered ability that just
correct. It's a
glomps
triggered
onto the
ability
deck,
that's just.
Should it
creates a
rather
million red.
be?
Go ahead.
Should it be Rat Swarm instead of Rat Storm?
Maybe,
Well,
but I wanted to be funny with a reference to the.
Yeah,
subject.
exactly.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I think it's correct. It's a triggered ability that's just looking and checking
Mhm.
the spells in the same way Storm does, right? It's got the same trigger. It's just that instead of spawning a bunch of copies that fill the stack, it creates a bunch of tokens out, like permanents, right? Effectively. So yeah, to me, I think it works.
And there's one more subtle difference with Storm. It's for each spell cast before it this turn, and with Rat Storm, it's for each spell cast. And Storm is supposed to copy it, right? So you get your original. I went with for each spell cast this turn because when you're a player playing a Storm card, you're used to counting up the number of spells you cast and including the card, and you get that many things. So you cast 3 spells and then tendrils. That means you get 4 things.
Right.
And if this read before it, you would get 1 fewer rat than the spells you cast, and that would be weird. Even though it would technically have the same text as Storm, the outcome
Gotcha.
for the player would be, I'm always getting 1 less than I would get with Storm, and anyway, so it's like a game design thing where
It's a good catch.
player keeps doing things and expects this to be
Yeah, because they would just
use a
naturally
similar
count
thing,
this
and
in there.
yeah.
Right.
Also, I wanted it to work with Cascade,
there
and
is
it
one
wouldn't otherwise.
there is one other rule difference here. As you currently have it written, it's actually grabbing all of your opponent's spells that have been cast this turn as well.
Yeah, Normal Storm does that too.
Yeah.
That's why Normal Storm is so good. There's 2 reasons
Normal
why.
Storm
'Cause it
will
counts your
trigger off
opponent's
your
spells.
opponent's spells when they start
Oh,
interacting.
sorry, I missed that.
They can't.
Yeah. Normal Storm, if people start interacting with you while you're starting to storm off, that's just adding to your storm count. So, like, yeah, 100%. Like, start interacting, quick. Everybody else start casting things. Get my storm count up.
Yeah, sometimes the blue player is just kind of waiting there with a high tide and a brain freeze, and on somebody else's turn, somebody casts something, in response, and you're like, people have cast 6 cards. It's time to storm. Let's go.
Yeah.
Is their
Yeah,
instance.
Yep, absolutely. All right.
Anyway, he's
Slaves to Darkness. Archeon, the Ever-Chosen. 1 colorless and Wooburg. And Wooburg's an interesting choice. We can talk about that. And then for a 5/7. All right, take us through this guy. I assume he's meant to be on Drogar, of course.
Yeah.
Human
just
Apocalypse is maybe my favorite creature type I've ever seen
You like
printed.
the creature type? Yeah, I made sure of that.
Yeah.
There's no good art of him being on Drogar.
Sure.
There just isn't. I've looked.
I know.
But then again, they're just drawing the model, and well, anyway. He's a 5/7 for 6, but it's Warburg, so it's hard to assemble. Or expensive, or both. Flying, Death Touch, Hexproof, Dethrone. Dethrone is if you attack the player with the most life. Gets a bonus. +1/+1.
Yep.
Whenever a creature you control dies, you may have that creature deal damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker.
Fight on death.
Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you may draw a card.
Okay.
Whenever you draw a card, you may goad target creature.
Okay.
You can make the people fight amongst each other. He's just like a super genius battlefield tactician guy. I made him essentially be always controlling the battlefield at all times.
Sure.
An earlier version of him, the fight when you die would deal damage to any target. But the way people would build that is they would just get a million creatures and then cast Archeon and instantly sacrifice all them and just like combo. And I want him to be a meat and potatoes controlling, gaining advantage. Nothing is, even when he loses.
Yeah, you can't
he
just
wins.
blast an opponent off the table. Yeah.
It's not that that's a bad play style. It's just a different one that I wanted him to have. Because he's certainly not like that in AoS. He's more control-y and hard to kill.
I assume Hexproof is the Eye of Ed Sheeran. I assume Death
Yeah.
Touch is the Slayer of Kings. Dethrone is just his general modus operandi. Right?
Dethrone is a little bit of a Slayer of Kings too, because it,
Sure.
you know, but and then Flag is Dorgar.
Yeah. All right. Why I would have totally believed this guy, like honestly, as blue, black, red, green, maybe even. But I think he could just be like 4 colors and Grixis colors, like he being in chaos. I'm not sure he needs to be Wooburg. I really justify the white and or maybe the green to me.
All right. The military controller, you know, emperor stuff, all the white we were talking about with that kind of stuff. You actually have to be very organized to conquer the world
I'll buy that.
run things for 1,000 years. Well, 900 or so. Yes, there's confusion in the ranks, and Be'lakor is screwing with you, and all the barbarians are crazy. But he's got regiments and the 1 million Vanguard around the spire and everything like that. So he is that. And with green, he has a little bit of a penchant of trying to control the world itself, grabbing the world beasts and putting them under his rule and finding the realm gates. And I felt really he was like a representative of just like everything.
Okay.
Controls
Yeah.
everything.
You've sold
Can
me on the
use
white.
anything he
I'm still
needs.
not sure about the green. I think ultimately in
Okay.
my mind he's like 3 colors, white, blue, black, red.
That
and
could
no
be.
green. Like he is the bringer of the apocalypse. Like he's the bringer of the end times, right? The destroyer of worlds, the grand marshal.
So maybe
of
he's the opposite
apocalypse.
of green because he does. It's not that he uses the world; he actually destroys it. So
Yeah.
couldn't get less green than that, maybe.
Yeah, like he's
You're a
just
world
he's such an
destroyer.
active force of destruction, right? That I think he doesn't have any green identity in him. I'll totally buy it. You've justified the white and the identity to me, and I'm with that. Tom,
Or
any
we got
thoughts?
to bump his mana cost
I
up
think
then a little bit.
Yeah.
Instead of, I think instead of Death Touch, I would have him exile creatures that he damages
There is no room for that on this card.
for his Slayer King.
Sure.
I agree.
I believe that.
There's no room on this card for that. I guess I could delete some sentences, but a lot of this is working within the tiny box that I'm given. Maybe not green in notes.
Yeah, a couple people are saying he's got green because he's also like because of the Nurgle aspect, and that's fine. Nurgle's green black. His Nurgle aspect is black. Like I don't need to buy that he needs to have every color combination from the sub things to be part of that. Right?
Yeah.
Like Nurgle is green and black because it's the cycle of life and death. Like it's the whole thing. He's not
It's
into
maybe the
Nurgle.
most easily represented thing.
Yeah,
ever.
he just
Like,
has,
what
like, the-
colors should Nurgle be in Magic? Green, black. No
Right,
one
like,
would ever
that's-
say that.
That's easy, but he doesn't need to have every color from that to be part of that, right? Like he doesn't. He's not walking around caring about the cycle of life. He's not spreading the corruption of Nurgle. He doesn't think about that. He just has a dragon that happens to have a Nurgle head, but he eschews the Chaos Gods specifically. Like he doesn't like. He's not here to become their pawn or puppet. You know, he's like that's part of his whole thing, right? So it's not as though he's directly Nurgle-fied or something like that. So I just don't buy the green. I think green's color identity just doesn't fit here.
All right.
Okay, cool. Be'lakor, the Dark Master. Now I will say this card exists because he's in the 40k Warhammer set.
Should I have? I didn't know that.
Yes, Be'lakor exists as a card.
But is it Be'lakor the Dark Master, or is it just Be'lakor?
Boy, that's a great question.
I just looked it up. It is the Dark Master.
There you go.
Demon Noble, it says, not Demon Prince. He's the first Demon Prince. That's
I
his
know,
lore.
right?
Maybe not in 40k.
I'm trying to bring him up. He's Grixis, I know that.
Oh, he's Grixis Demon Tribal. So
So
you
clearly
lose
it
life,
should be
draw cards equal to
Be'lakor,
demons when he enters, and he deals damage equal to demon power when you play them. He's like super strong until you look at all the demons, and there's like 4 good
he
ones.
should
and they
clearly
cost
be
millions, so.
Be'lakor,
Firstborn demon prince or something like that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no room. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly.
All right, but take us through it. You set him as Demir instead of full Grixis. So
I
you've
did.
got him.
I went
Make him. We will call this Bellacore scheming demon or scheming prince or something like that, right? Okay.
So needs a rename. Card exists. Comma apparently. All right. Card exists. He is a 4/6 for 6 with flying and skulk. So skulk can't be blocked by creatures with greater power.
Right.
Because he's a conniving, duplicitous betrayer and sets up demure situations so that he always wins. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control no traders, gain control of target non-legendary creature. It becomes a trader in addition to its other types, and black in addition to its other colors. This is Eternus's backstory writ onto a card.
Sure.
At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, target creature that player controls gains summoning sickness. So this is the Dark Master ability. And so I think this is maybe the first time in Magic you're giving something summoning sickness out of nowhere.
I love it.
That was...
Not tap them.
No, don't tap them. Don't kill them or tap them. They don't untap or they can't activate abilities or something like that. I had a lot of ideas about how to do the Dark Master ability. You can think of a million. Put a counter on him, remove a Dark Master counter from him.
Sure.
Target creature phases out or whatever. The million
Get
things.
6 stun counters or whatever. Sure.
Yeah.
Like all sorts of things. Yep. No, I love gains summoning sickness. Holy crap. That's really clever. And I can't think of any reason why it couldn't be used. Like, that seems correct rules wise. Like, yeah, that's great. That's just good. Yeah, because they can still block. Like, even when the Dark Master goes off, if you then charge them, like, it's still happening.
Yeah.
It's fine. Okay.
So in his Wikipedia, one of his titles is Father in Shadow, which I think fits for the Skulk.
There you go. Bellacore, Father in Shadow. I wonder how it probably still doesn't fit, but nonetheless, it's really good. It's a good name.
Father in Shadow. That's
you could also do
long,
First Damned.
Cool.
You could do First Damned or Lord of Torment.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Not a lot of space
or
there
First Prince.
for letters, but First Prince works, yeah.
Oh, it'll be Te Dark Master. I'll just do the TEH typo on the keyboard.
Sure. Very nice. Okay. Let's keep going. I love this. This is great. And it is true. Like, these guys, just like I said, this guy already exists, but like the version you just spit out of this dude is still totally believable as Bellacore. That's one of the reasons why you can have, in another fun thing about Magic is you can have 3-4 different Elish Norns, and they all represent different aspects of Elish Norn, and you feel like you're playing Elish Norn every time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And Pithing Needle the wrong one, maybe.
There you go. All right, next up, Gloomspite gets Skragrot, the Loon King, who is blue, black, red, green, for a 3/3. All right, take us through Scraggy.
All right, Skragrot the Loon King, 3/3 for 4 with Ward 3. He has Fungal Mooncraft. Whenever you cast or copy a colored spell, create a 1/1 red and green Boingy Boy creature token with flying for each of that spell's colors. Threshold, Boingy Boys get 1/1 and have Myriad. Myriad is whenever a creature attacks, create a copy of it for each opponent, and they're all attacking different opponents, and so gets a poppin'.
I love it. It makes Boingy Boys, and then the Boingy Boys make more Boingy Boys, and
they
it's
go
all based
everywhere
on,
and have to attack everyone.
Yes, and Threshold is having 7 or more cards in your graveyard, which is the bed of stuff you need to grow a healthy fungus layer, because they want to grow in dead stuff. Yes, that gives you that dank. Yes, gives you that dank graveyard. Yep, it all works. Oh boy, that's a lot of fun. I gotta say, that's a very fun little guy.
He's just a little guy.
Is that some gifts you would play, Vince?
Maybe, yeah. This is pretty. 4-color commanders are really iffy for me. I generally am like
tough.
I generally never. I don't even really love building 3-color commander decks. I'll do it, but I only own one deck that's a 4-color commander, and that's Atraxa, because Atraxa rules, and she's perfect and beautiful and has never done anything wrong ever. and we know this. Okay, so that's a good point. Jacob said descend, the new mechanic that just like well, whatever. It's in Ixalan a lot. It's in I shouldn't say new. I should say it's in Lost Caverns of Ixalan a lot. Could also work, right? Where it'd be like descend, whatever, right? Boingy boys get this. So, yep, absolutely. Okay, yeah, descend is really often just more versatile threshold, right?
I wanted a little. I wanted. I don't know. I suppose descend. You're descending into the caverns. I guess that could work too. I wanted the threshold sounds a little more petrichor, kind of forest floor, kind of pine needles and stuff. I guess fungal.
Sure. All right. We already talked about Glob. He's
already talked about Glob and Bob.
Yep. Glob and Bragoth. And that brings us to the Auric War Clans, Iron Jaws. Gordrak, Fist of Gork. 2 colorless, 3 green, 2 red for a 7/5 red-green, commonly known as Gruul. And if there was ever a perfectly Gruul army in AoS, it is Iron Jaws. They don't make them more Gruul than this, baby.
Why do we like Gruul? Because they rule.
That's right.
He is a legendary creature, 7/5 for 7. With Riot. Riot is a mechanic when you cast this card. It either enters with a 1/1 counter on it or haste, your choice.
Yep.
It's haste.
It's, yeah, sure.
With flying trample.
I mean, unless you already have haste from another source, but sure.
Yeah, unless you have, flying trample, protection from wizards. Doing a little lore in there.
Very good.
Gordrak can't be countered. Wizards BTFO. Gordrak and other creatures you control have when Gordrak attacks. Fight target creature you don't control. Whenever a fighting creature dies, create a treasure token.
Nice. Nice. Yes,
you just want people getting scuffed up. Orcs never lose, right? As long as it was a good fight.
I think this is the second creature printed with protection from wizards. I think there's that already exists, like one creature currently.
Here's one,
which is Green Sleeves or whatever, right? He's protection from wizards and planeswalkers. So yeah, I mean, first of all, just yes, I want to drop this on 7 and just shout. He comes in like a wrecking ball and just like, everybody, why aren't you fighting? Everybody's fighting. Things are dying. Treasure's exploding. Damage is happening everywhere. This is so good.
He's basically like a red-green Wrath of God. Like he lands and swings, and then everybody's creatures die. You get 1,000,000 treasure. Gordrak is still alive, and then like 2 tokens over there. And now you all have all this treasure to cast a bunch more orcs and stuff.
So good.
Writing this ability was really challenging for a bunch of obtuse and esoteric reasons, involving like how you have to write fighting on a card that I won't necessarily get all the way into. But long story short, it kind of had to be like this. I wanted everyone to be in there. It's also a little bit of smashing and bashing.
Yep, absolutely.
Because they're fighting and then you're fighting. Well, okay, you're fighting and then you're attacking, in other words.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just a hell of a lot of fun, and it's very visual. It's this giant bowling ball that just appears and all hell breaks loose.
Sure.
In other words, fun.
The only thing I'm not sure of is the treasure token thing. I mean, I like it. It's cool. It's a great effect. I just don't know that Iron Jaws care much about treasure, right? Or that Gordrak does specifically. He's kind of in it for the bashing, right?
Yeah, I wanted to reward the bashing.
Right.
And they do. I mean, they do loot stuff. And
could you do another combat phase?
Well, that's too strong for simply killing a thing with fighting. Yes.
Concerns.
I have to wonder if like you want to encourage the fighting, right? Because that's what you want to get. And so
I'm like, well, kind of, they do steal stuff and treasure, but it's almost more of a mechanic. It's less good than it was in some of the other treasure cards we've seen. This one is more of like a mechanical one. Your reward isn't necessarily actual treasure. It's suddenly having 8 mana after combat to just play more orcs and stuff and then pass the turn because all your guys died from fighting.
I think
So hard
let's
to
talk
justify
about. I think
maybe.
what you're doing is building up Wa energy, right?
Yeah.
It's probably the text is too long to fit here, but I think the way you would do that would be whenever because that's what you're trying to represent here, right? Like it's a bunch of fighting, it's building up the Wa, but a treasure token is like a physical thing in the world. Whereas it feels like what it should be, and again, it's probably too much text.
Oh, like an Omnath kind of.
An Omnath
What is
effect.
that? Hellkite that gives you
Exactly.
red
Mana form Hellkite.
Yeah.
You got
And
it.
then it doesn't empty out in the phases. Yeah,
Whenever
that's
a
probably-
fighting creature dies, add red or green to your mana pool. This does not go away as phases end, like that standard wording, right? That would be that's the correct wording. Now I'm back on board for like.
And there's precedent in it in specifically red and green. There's like at least 2 creatures that do that.
100%. Yep. Yeah, there's like multiple Omnaths that do this.
Yeah. Some Furnace Hellkite or some.
Yes, Mana Form Hellkite is the other guy you're thinking of.
Yeah.
So, yep, great, love it. Now we're back on board. Now we're building the wall. Okay, cool. We got there. Good stuff. Hell yeah. Okay. Auric War Clans, Bone Splitters. I'm sorry, who dat?
For now, at the time of this recording, Bone Splitters is an army.
1 colorless, 1 blue, 1 red, 1 green for a 1/3. All right. Just the Wargog Prophet. That's it. There's just no named characters in Bone Splitters, or is this a specific guy?
I looked.
Sure.
I searched. I didn't search too long, but I searched. We made the Wargog Prophet.
Sure.
There are many like him, but this is the legendary one. He has Ward 4. Whenever you win a clash, gain 1 life.
Oh my god.
Whenever a player loses a clash, that player loses 3 life.
Uh-huh.
That includes you. X3 tap, shuffle, then scry 2, clash with target opponent X times. So every time you clash, every time you win, you gain 1, and when you lose or they lose, you lose 3. Play some Rochambeau, shall we?
Yeah,
Can you-
absolutely.
Light
Just
advantage.
laser beam staring.
Light advantage profit because they built their deck around this and they gain 1.
Can you
It's-
explain what clashing is?
Oh yeah, we should explain Clash. This mechanic that existed in Lore. Well, this wasn't even in main Lorwyn, right? Didn't it come in the follow up to Lorwyn? Wasn't it in like
It was based on
Shadow
Mana
Lord.
Clash, but not really. Yeah.
Yeah.
It, I can't
Yes.
believe I have to explain Mana Clash to Check's notes, everyone in the chat.
yes, this mechanic from one set, from truly one of the greatest sets ever made, a 4 release set, the Lorwyn block, still
Yeah,
one of the
it's
best
so good.
blocks ever. And now finally, 20 years later, in 2025, we're going to return to this plane. It's about freaking time we go back to the best plane ever. But anyways, Clash, go ahead.
So you and the player you're clashing with reveal the top cards of your library. Whoever reveals the card that has the higher mana value wins, and the other player loses. And then you can put that on the top or the bottom. You both can. And then nothing intrinsic happens when a clash wins or loses. The card always refers to that event. And so there's winning a clash and there's losing a clash. And so I had to put rules on here so that that would make any sense. So when somebody loses a clash, they lose 3. And when you only win a clash, you gain 1. And so the point of the deck is to clash for 20 and just blaze it with the microwave stare.
Love it. And yes, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It was introduced in Lorwyn and then Morningtide or whatever.
Okay.
So there we go. Okay. Continue.
And you do have to shuffle first, so you can't just Worldly Tutor Draco on top and auto kill people. There is an element of randomness here. Sorry, Destruction players. I know I'm one of you. I know you don't like randomness, but I think Wargog Prophet players might.
Oh, I am deeply in love with this card. This is so fun. And do you know how many times I've tried to work Clash into decks? I keep trying.
Well, I submitted a legacy deck list in a tournament that I got 9th place, just out of top 8 at, that had a Clash card in the sideboard that would be Cunning Wished for with Omniscience out, and that card is Release the Ants. If you win a clash, you return it to your hand, and with Omniscience out, you can cast it infinitely as long as you always win a clash. And you cast Enter the Infinite to draw your library and put 1 card back. That 1 card is Emrakul. You auto-win every clash, and you do infinite damage.
Love it.
And it's the best deck ever because it was like a competitive at the time, like show and tell, dream halls kind of deck. And what you do is you are omniscient, you know everything in the universe. And then you enter the infinite, so you know all of infinity as well. Biggest giga brain, sorcerer, arc wizard, cosmic power ever. And the best, most efficient way to kill
Destroy the
someone
world,
when
the
you know
universe.
everything ever is to throw ants at them
Ants.
until they die
Ants.
by first wishing for it. And that's why
Amazing.
magic is fun sometimes.
Absolutely. Of all the power in the universe, what do you do? I wish for ants.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did the calculations, sir. It is the most efficient.
That's the way to go. All right. Orc War Clans, Cruel Boys, Gobsprak, Mouth of Mork, 2 colors, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 green. A combination most commonly known as Sultai, for a 4/2. That seems right given the toughness of this guy in most games. I think you nailed it. Okay. Hit me.
He's a 4/2 for 5. He has flash and flying. Whenever a spell you control counters a spell an opponent controls, that opponent loses life equal to the mana value of the countered card.
Yep.
Because that's what his actual War Scroll just straight up does. And to try to represent the trickiness of this faction, he has flash, and tapped creatures you control with power greater than their toughness have wither and can block as though they were untapped.
Little Misako the humorless there.
Yeah, little Misako coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And with bringing wither back, by the way, for ancient keywords, wither is
Another
creature
Lorwyn
deals,
Shadowmoor All-Star.
yeah. Dude, there was a 3/3 for 3 in there. Pretty decent in standard, actually, in red-green. Anyway, creature deals combat damage to other creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters. Very similar to Infect, just without the poison.
Yes. A 3/3 for 3. Are you talking for 3/3 hybrid red-green? That was called Boggart Ram Gang. Okay.
That was it. Yeah, the big log.
Yeah, gang, baby. Like Ram Gang was where it was at. Just because you could say Ram Gang constantly, like that was amazing. Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Okay. Fantastic. I love it. Yes. Though my only potential issue is I assume like kind of all of Dirty Tricks is wrapped up in Flash, right? That's kind of what that's meant to be.
Flash and tapped creatures and wither. Well, wither is the poison stuff. But
Wither's the poison stuff, yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, the block is though they were untapped is the other part of the Dirty Tricks. Okay. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Which is not much of a trick because everybody can read it, but they will forget.
Sure.
People be playing Commander, reading their phone, eating hot chips, you know, and suddenly you're like, Gobsprak, wither all your guys, got him. Oh, I forgot.
Yes, I like the Flash on there with that ability is really fun because he could just show up. Yeah, it's great. Okay.
And a lot of times it'll be like, here comes Gobsprak EOT, and someone like bolts him instant. Oh, and there he's back in the command zone.
Yep.
Or 2.
Okay.
That checks out.
Sons of Behemoth. Okay, here we go. King Broad, 3 colorless, 3 red, 3 green. Right on. 9 mana for a 9/11. Okay. Hit me.
That's the number you're going to have to call when he shows up. Right?
That's right.
You're going to call 911. He's a 9/11 for 9 in Commander as a commander, okay? With reach, vigilance, and trample. As long as no player controls more lands than you, creatures you control have indestructible. Mega Annihilator 3. You've heard of Annihilator from Eldrazi. This is Mega Annihilator.
God bless it. Yes, okay.
Mega Annihilator 3. Whenever King Broad attacks, defending player sacrifices 3 permanents. Whenever King Broad blocks, attacking player sacrifices 3 permanents. And so how do you win with this guy? The same way you do in AoS. He stands there, and everybody loses their stuff until he wins.
Right.
And he's
Attacking
immune to
you.
people playing fair and square, but as soon as they start building their deck like good, they just exile him.
Right. Yeah.
Just like in AoS. You pass the DPS check, and then they lose.
Yep. And it all falls apart. Fantastic. Mega Annihilator is pretty great. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. Pretty good. I'm here for this guy. Yeah. Tom, any thoughts on this guy before we jump to, I think, the last one? Maybe 2 more? I'm not sure.
No, he's delightful. Mega Annihilator, I'm in for it.
Absolutely. I think the
Forcing
problem with
people to lose
Annihilator...
by attacking.
Yeah, the problem with Annihilator was that it didn't have enough destruction. I think we need more Annihilator. You're right. That was the problem with Annihilator.
Didn't
Attack
do
trigger
enough.
only, weak sauce. Get out of
Yeah.
here.
Both.
Okay. Destruction. Kragnos, the end of empires. 5 colors, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green in Jund for an 8/8. So an 8 drop, 8/8. Okay.
He has reach, hexproof, and haste. When Kragnos enters the battlefield, if you cast it for each opponent, destroy 2 target lands they control, then destroy all dragons.
Yes.
When
Nice.
Kragnos attacks, other creatures you control gain trample and get XX until end of turn, where X is the number of land cards and dragon cards in all graveyards.
Beautiful. Yep. Yep. I mean, yes, this is Kragnos. This is correct.
Feels right.
Double Stone Rain with like a what's the name of the destroy all creatures of that type?
Destroy all dragons or
Day
non-dragons,
of
that black card.
Destiny, or it's the Ugin. Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's a engineered.
It's Ugin.
No, I'm thinking of like engineered pandemic or something like that. The one that's choosing to destroy all creatures. That engineered plague. There.
Oh, Crux of Fate. Is it Crux of Fate?
Yeah, Crux of Fate is the. Yeah, but yeah, that's
Okay.
not the one that Vince was talking about. But yeah,
Right.
it works.
Yeah, that also works. And then there's a Xenagos God of Revel sort of effect on here, but it's for everybody, and it's land and dragon cards. Great, just great. Yes.
Hexproof because of the shield and violet. He's immune to magic.
Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
Yeah, and I put reach on here not for any like real reason, but just if a magic player who doesn't know AoS looks at it, like, how's this guy kill dragons if he can't block flyers? And so I put reach on there for that exact reason.
No, that checks out. He is always still getting him up in the sky, so that's fine.
He is standing on a rock.
He is standing on a rock.
Reach up.
It's a tall rock.
Yeah, so that's Kragnos, aka we have Craterhoof Behemoth at home. He's like just worse. Like he's just far worse, but that's fine. It's fine. He's flavorful.
I mean, he can be in the command zone, so it's okay. That's still pretty good.
Craterhoof can't. Yeah.
Yep. All right, and there we go. So you can find these cards on mtgcardsmith.com. Hey, whoa. There you go.
Yeah, go ahead and play with them if you'd like. Test them out. I'm going to make a change or 2 after this feedback, but tell me how they go. I haven't play tested them. I've only just kind of thought about them. So tell me your stories. I hope you enjoy.
Absolutely fantastic. Hey, whoa. Let me tell you what. I will be grabbing some of these. I will be building a deck around one of these. I got to figure out who. I'm sure my group would be okay with it. I'm going to be like, this is my new commander. It's a thing that a guy on the internet made. Just trust me.
Yeah.
Trust me.
It's all cool.
It's okay.
It's all fine. I mean, like, the one I'm going to pick will probably be Sigvald because that's me. But we'll see. At any rate, hey, well, man, thank you, buddy, for putting in all this incredible work. Like, what an amazing gift to the community to make this thing. If you all haven't hit like yet, hit like because it's my birthday. Hit like because there's 151 or 152 of you champions right now sticking it out 4 hours into the show, watching this still. Hit like for Haywo's incredible amount of work that he did and then making this available to everybody. As usual, just hit like because it's a cool thing to do and you're a cool person. Subscribe, all of that stuff. If you want to support the show, hey, buy a book or something. Adam and I have a new magazine out. Don't forget our new zine came out, Snarl. It's got a fun tank game in it, as well as updates for Reign in Hell and Space Station Zero. All our other books are down there. There's a merch store down there. You can get Tom's weird little Nurgle guy and put that on your chest all the time if you want to. You can do that. It's a lot of fun. And there's other things there too, of course. And you can, of course, support us on Patreon. That's focused on review and feedback and taking your next step on your hobby journey. But for all of you out there, whatever you do, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.